Chapter 4719. That's right, Alchemist Qin. You said that they were still far away from becoming level 8 alchemists. Why did they perform so well in the first round? Jun Lingxuan was also a little anxious. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, he had a faint feeling of uneasiness in his heart. At that time, he felt that everything was very safe and there was no problem at all. However, after what happened today, he suddenly felt that his previous feeling was not wrong. Alchemist Qin's face was also a little ugly. He had always looked down on Di Yunhe and Di Hingyan. Now that they had lost in the first round to the two guys he had always looked down on, one could imagine how he felt. At this moment, when he heard Jun Xuanqiao's questioning words, he was very unhappy. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang said, he had no other way out. He could only maintain his relationship with the Jun family. Therefore, he could only patiently explain, "Great Elder, don't worry. What I learned before is absolutely correct. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyan are only level 7 alchemists. As for why they were able to perform so well in this round, I think it's because they are good at this. This kind of situation occurs in every alchemy competition. Everyone has something they are good at. Naturally, it's very beneficial for them to draw this kind of topic. However, there are still 2 more rounds. They can't be so lucky. You can rest assured." Alchemist Qin said with certainty. Looking at Alchemist Qin's confident and assured face, Jun Xianxiao was relieved. What Alchemist Qin said was very likely. He could only sigh that the Di family was really lucky this time. Bailey Hongzhuang just looked at Xiao Sou indifferently. She could see the strong disgust and anger in the other's eyes. In response, she just responded with a calm smile. Di Yunhe was strong only because of her family background. In terms of personal strength, she did not take her seriously at all. Even if her current cultivation was weaker than Xiao Sou's, she was still full of confidence. She would definitely surpass her. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's extreme confidence, Xiao Sou's eyes flickered. She could clearly see the strong confidence and ambition in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Even her careful state of mind was affected. The most terrifying thing was that the other party gave her a tyrannical aura that pressed forward courageously, causing her to have a feeling that she could not resist. How was this possible? Xiao Sou was secretly shocked, but she did not show it on her face. She began to wonder if this Bailey Hongzhuang really came from the lower realm. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were waiting for the second round of the competition to begin, a figure walked over under everyone's gaze. Looking at the man in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly bloomed into a smile. "Nice to meet you, Ouyang Jifeng." Ouyang Jifeng stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. A polite and calm smile appeared on his handsome and determined face. It was like a wisp of spring breeze, blowing past without a trace. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Bailey Hongzhuang. You're very powerful." Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, Ouyang Jifeng seemed to be even more delighted. "Let's exchange pointers when we have a chance." "It will be my pleasure." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Even though this was her first time meeting Ouyang Jifeng, she had a rather good impression of him. After all, he was someone with true power. It's a promise. Chapter 4720. It wasn't until Ouyang Jifeng left that everyone present reacted. Everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was so outstanding this time that she was likely to be Ouyang Jifeng's opponent. They didn't expect that the two would become friends. Di Xiaofeng looked surprised. This Ouyang Jifeng's character has always been very strange. Most people don't care about him at all. I didn't expect him to take the initiative to meet Hongzhuang at this time. It's really surprising. Not only Di Xiaofeng, but Lin Qianqian and others also nodded. I have seen this Ouyang Jifeng before, but he seems to be only interested in alchemy. He doesn't pay attention to other things at all. Lin Qianqian shrugged. In fact, in their opinion, this Ouyang Jifeng was a complete nerd. Even if a beauty stood in front of him, he would have no reaction. Having said that, no one dared to ignore Ouyang Jifeng, because his strength was as outstanding as his alchemy skills. Second cousin-in-law, it is already amazing that you could become Ouyang Jifeng's friend at this time. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. Looking at everyone's astonished look, Di Beichun said He took a fancy to Hong Zhuang's alchemy skills, so he took the initiative to befriend her. When Ouyang Jifeng came just now, he saw it clearly. The other party's eyes were very clear. Obviously, he didn't have any thoughts. He just took the initiative to befriend Bailey Hongzhuang because he appreciated her alchemy skills. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, thinking about it. Only such a focused mind can do this. The Ouyang family is a very powerful family. Hongzhuang, it is also a good thing that you can become friends with Ouyang Jifeng. Di Qiuan said with a faint smile. Not long after, the voice on the high platform sounded again. The second round of the competition is about to begin. Alchemists who passed the first round, please step onto the competition stage. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the two elders did not delay and immediately jumped onto the stage. Mo Yunjue and the others stood outside, paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. They were happy for her results in the first round. Hongzhuang is indeed a perverted existence. No matter where she is, she will always be so outstanding. Ziren sighed, his mouth constantly muttering that she was too perverted. I used to think that Hongzhuang's talent in alchemy was astonishing. No wonder no one in the lower realms was her opponent. It turns out that she was also such a powerful existence in the upper realms. Mo Yunjue's lips curled into a smile. In fact, he should have known that Hongzhuang had always been this outstanding. It's a pity that we can only watch from outside. We can't go near to cheer her on. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Usually, she would always be by Hongzhuang's side at times like this. It's not bad that we can watch from here. Ziren looked at Shangguan Yingying comfortingly. After all, if they suddenly appeared in front of the D family now, it would be very shocking. When they walked onto the competition stage again, compared to the crowded situation in the first round, there were less than half of the people left on the stage. Now, the president of the Radiant Guild will pick the topic for the second round. The president of the Alchemist Guild said. Everyone immediately looked at the president of the Radiant Guild, wondering what kind of topic would be chosen for the second round. Chapter 4721. The second round is a test of knowledge. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be surprised. Testing knowledge? What kind of test was this? After all the alchemists present heard about this test, their expressions became somewhat complicated. I didn't expect to draw such a question. Di Yuna frowned. Every time this test is held, there are always some obscure questions. I wonder what kind of question it will be this time. That's right. This is a test of luck. If you happen to know, you'll be able to answer satisfactorily. If you haven't heard of it, you're done for. Di Hung, Yin shook his head and sighed. He didn't know how lucky he was either. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the conversation between the two elders and finally understood. She couldn't help but ask, does this test require us to answer on paper? Di Yuna nodded. That's right. This test is to test the alchemist's understanding of obscure herbs. However, there are so many herbs in the world, and even more obscure ones. We don't even see many of them on a daily basis, so we don't know much about them. Since this test isn't something we use on a daily basis, we can only rely on luck. Second, madam, you don't have to worry. Actually, many people might not know about it. Di Hung Yin comforted. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She didn't expect this test to be held in such a way. She felt that it was quite novel. Alchemist Qin's mood was complicated. He wanted to win the second round, but he didn't expect this kind of question. This was a test of luck. He couldn't guarantee that he would be better than Di Yunhe and Di Hung Yin. When he thought of this, he felt extremely depressed. Why was everyone helping the Di family this time? If he didn't know that this test was completely fair, he would have suspected that the Radiant Guild's president was colluding with the Di family. To ensure that this test is absolutely fair, we will decide on the questions on the spot. Every alchemist will have a pen and paper in front of them. After we have decided on the questions, everyone can begin to answer. Hearing this, everyone nodded. This was indeed quite appropriate. After waiting for a while, the voice of the Alchemist Association's president sounded out once again. There are a total of 10 questions in the second round. Each question is worth 10 points. 60 points is qualified, 75 points is good, and 90 points is excellent. Now for the first question, please write down the 10 types of medicinal herbs that are incompatible with the sprout of green. Each correct answer will count as 1 point. After the first question was read out, the complexion of the alchemist on the competition platform changed somewhat. I knew that this kind of assessment would have such perverted questions. Di Hung Yun let out a sigh. The green prunus branch was not a common medicinal ingredient, but everyone had some understanding of its properties. But now, they were asked to write down 10 things that could counter each other. This was not easy. The other alchemists also sighed one after another, unable to guarantee whether their judgment was correct or not. Therefore, when everyone below the stage saw the group of alchemists' hesitant or sighing appearances, they understood in their hearts that this competition was not simple. Correspondingly, there were still some pharmacists who calmly started to write their answers. Pharmacists with abundant knowledge wrote even faster, their expressions brimming with confidence. Chapter 47:22. Listening to Xiao Sudong's words, Xiao So also looked up. Sure enough, as Xiao Sudong said, her family's alchemist had already written with confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang, on the other hand, looked hesitant. Seeing this, she couldn't help but show a trace of pride in her eyes. For the other two elders of the D family, she didn't care so much. She cared most about Bailey Hongzhuang. What she wanted was to see Bailey Hongzhuang's defeat, not that all the glory belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang alone. At this moment, everyone in the Jun family's eyes were also tightly focused on the three members of the D family. They had already lost to the D family in the first round. In the second round, they couldn't accept losing again. Fortunately, after looking at them, they found that the three members of the D family didn't write. They all looked a little hesitant. Alchemist Qin was also a little hesitant, but he didn't hesitate for long and soon began to write. In this kind of knowledge assessment, the older the person, the more advantageous it is. After all, they have more time to read books. After all, young alchemists can't be compared with older alchemists. Di Chuyuan said slowly. This situation was also within his expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang was too young. It was already incredible that she could become an 8th-grade alchemist at this age. If she also had some understanding of these unorthodox knowledge, it would be too terrifying. Lin Xuren nodded slightly. Yes, this kind of question is actually more advantageous for older alchemists. You see, the younger alchemists present are basically hesitating. Lin Yi and others were a little worried after seeing this scene. This kind of assessment was really unfavorable for Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but look at Di Beichun and said, Sister-in-law's performance is already very outstanding. It doesn't matter if her performance in this round is not good enough. The 3 rounds of the competition were calculated based on the total score. Even if there were some shortcomings in the second round, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the first round could make up for all of it. Seeing this, Di Beichun smiled slightly and said, These questions won't stump Hongzhuang. He and Hongzhuang had been together for so long. It could be said that he knew her alchemy skills very well. The knowledge in the Chaos Ring was already amazing. He believed that there must be other reasons for his wife's hesitation now, not because she couldn't answer. After hearing Di Beichun's words, the Jun and Xiao cultivators on the side sneered in their hearts. Di Beichun, I think you're too confident. Even Jun Lingshuan sighed and on sides mocks Jun Lingshuan ridiculed. On the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang's hesitant look was clearly seen by all of them. Di Beichun just glanced at Jun Lingshuan faintly. Alchemist Qin, whom you have always praised, doesn't seem to be so sure of the answer. At least it's better than those alchemists in your family who are slow to write. Di Beichun's lips suddenly raised. Young Master Jun, since you were so confident, why don't we bet again? As soon as this remark came out, Jun Lingshuan frowned slightly and said, What do you want to bet? Chapter 47:23. Listening to Di Beichun's incomparably arrogant words, Jun Lingshuan was simply speechless. Just as he was about to angrily refute, Di Beichun's voice rang out again. Since that's the case, how about we bet the storage ring on your hand? Jun Lingshuan was the young master of the Jun family. Naturally, he had a lot of treasures in his storage ring. Storage ring. Jun Lingshuan was slightly stunned. He was very clear about how many valuable treasures he had in his storage ring. What? You don't dare? Di Beichun raised his good-looking eyebrows. If you don't dare, then forget it. Di Baichen's deep eyes were filled with contempt and disdain. He lazily withdrew his gaze. If you don't have the guts, then don't clamor in front of me. It's annoying to look at. After hearing Di Baichen's words, Jun Lingxuan only felt that the opposite party's attitude was like driving away an annoying dog. He was the dignified young master of the Jun family. When had he ever been looked down upon like this? Xiao Sou couldn't help but speak up after hearing this bet. Young Master Jun, he's just putting up a strong front. Everyone can see that he's bound to lose. Xiao Sou was already very dissatisfied when she heard that Di Baichen blindly believed in Bailey Hongzhuang. All along, only men had pursued her. It was rare for her to admire a man, but the other party disdained her. Therefore, the better Di Baichen treated Bailey Hongzhuang, the more unhappy she was. Jun Lingxuan originally wanted to agree to this bet. Now that he heard Xiao Sou's words, he didn't hesitate. Since young Miss Xiao thinks so, then I agree to this bet. Jun Lingxuan's face was full of confidence. The Di family was indeed lucky in the last round, but he did not believe that the Di family would be so lucky every time. However, his gaze fell on Di Baichen for a moment before he turned to Di Xiaofeng and said, "You just came from the lower realm to the upper realm. In my opinion, there shouldn't be anything good in your storage ring. If you want to bet with me, then use Di Xiaofeng's ring." Jun Lingxuan was not stupid. On the contrary, he was very smart. Since Di Baichen took the initiative to propose such a bet, he might have already transferred the treasure in the ring. Therefore, he would not accept the ring as a wager. When Di Xiaofeng saw that Jun Lingxuan actually took a fancy to his ring, he was stunned for a moment before he nodded and said, "Okay, I promise you." When Lin Yi saw that Di Xiaofeng actually chose to agree, she couldn't help but say, "Cousin, we don't seem to have the advantage in this second round." In fact, her words were more euphemistic because everyone saw the situation on the dueling platform very clearly. This was equivalent to giving away the ring directly. Jun Lingxuan would not give Di Xiaofeng the opportunity to regret. He immediately said, "It's a deal. It's a deal." Seeing that what was done could not be undone, Lin Yi also sighed. She couldn't help but feel distressed. She knew how many treasures were in Di Xiaofeng's ring. If he lost like this, it was really a pity. "We believe in Di Baichen." Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. He did have a lot of treasures in his ring, but in order to be able to hold his head high today, everything else was nothing. Lin Xianxian also showed a helpless expression. "AI, you are a little too impulsive." On the dueling platform, just as Di Baichen thought, Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated when she heard this question. Chapter 4724. According to what the two elders had told her before, this topic should be very obscure. Therefore, even though she was confident in her knowledge, she was still a little worried before hearing the question. She was even guessing what kind of strange question would appear in her head. But after hearing the content of the question, she realized that the question was very simple. After hesitating for a while and making sure that she didn't mishear the question, Bailey Hongzhuang began to write down the answer. Very quickly, the second question was read out. What is the effect of the long sea sand? Everyone once again revealed a look of hesitation. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard this question, she didn't find it difficult at all. She was even a little confused. It was clearly a very simple question. Why was everyone so hesitant? Logically speaking, she shouldn't have misunderstood it, right? After a few questions, the audience realized that the alchemists on the stage were writing slower and slower. It was obvious that the questions were getting harder and harder to answer. These questions are too obscure. Many of the medicinal ingredients are no longer seen. Nobody will carefully understand them. Now that they are being tested, many people won't be able to answer. There are also many alchemists below the stage. These alchemists weren't of the seventh realm, and were here to watch and learn. Actually, this isn't much. It's fair that everyone can answer. Didn't you see that the ninth realm alchemist also revealed a look of hesitation? It's a good thing that I don't have the right to participate in this alchemy competition, or else it would be embarrassing if I couldn't answer anything. In this situation where almost everyone was hesitating, one person's actions were very eye-catching. This person wasn't just anyone, it was Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was very fast. The moment she heard the question, she started writing. Everyone was pondering, but she was the only one who was so fast. If Bailey Hongzhuang was an established alchemist, then it would be fine. But she was a newcomer, and a newcomer who performed well in the first round. This made everyone very curious. This girl is writing so fast. Could it be that she can answer this question? It can't be. This is a question that even ninth realm alchemists have to think about. Could it be that she's just writing nonsense? I don't think so. Her performance in the first round was very outstanding. There's no need for her to pretend now. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, the president of the Alchemist Guild also had doubts in his heart. In fact, as early as the first round, he had already noticed Bailey Hongzhuang. To be able to refine the Ironheart fruit to such an extent at such a young age was already amazing. He felt that this kind of thing happening to Ouyang Jifeng was very normal, because they called Ouyang Jifeng an alchemy genius that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. Bailey Hongzhuang was younger than Ouyang Jifeng, but she could do this. How could they not be surprised? He originally had the intention of getting to know Bailey Hongzhuang. If the other party was really an alchemy genius, then their alchemist guild couldn't miss this opportunity. Second cousin-in-law can't really be that abnormal, right? Lin Yi was secretly stunned. She looked at Di Beichun incredulously. These questions are so difficult. Can second cousin-in-law answer them? Chapter 4725. Looking at Di Beichun's doting look, Lin Yi and Lin Xianxian couldn't help but look at each other and shook their heads helplessly. He is really the second cousin who dotes on his wife. Obviously, no matter who it is, in the eyes of Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang can't be compared with her. It seems that my previous worries seem to be superfluous again. Lin Yi raised her eyebrows slightly. She was still distressed for Di Xiaofeng's storage ring before, but now she began to look forward to Jun Lingshuan's storage ring. Thinking about it, the treasures in Jun Lingshuan's storage ring would definitely broaden their horizons. Di Xiaofeng also smiled heartily. Sister-in-law really brings us infinite surprises. Lin Taxing secretly sighed. I didn't understand why the Di family would make such a choice before. Now I finally understand. Although Lin Taxing didn't say it out loud, everyone present understood what he meant. Thinking back to the time when the Di family chose Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation and gave up Xiao So, this was an incomprehensible choice in everyone's eyes. Now, they suddenly understood. Jun Lingshuan was originally very happy. He could get Di Xiaofeng's storage ring, which was a big profit. But as the more questions came out, the more unnatural the smile on his face became. Because he clearly saw Alchemist Qin frowning and thinking, and Bailey Hongzhuang's relaxed indifference. He couldn't help but feel nervous. Young Master Jun, don't worry. Xiao Seiwu couldn't help but say, in my opinion, this Bailey Hongzhuang is most likely just pretending. Maybe she thought that this kind of question could be written randomly and have a chance of getting it right. Hearing this, Jun Lingshuan nodded slightly. That's right. As Bailey Hongzhuang wrote down the answers to the 10 questions, she noticed that the alchemists around her were still thinking. At this moment, she already understood that most of these herbs were herbs that appeared in the past. They rarely appeared now, but thousands of years ago, they were herbs that were often used. It was precisely because of this that she felt that it was very simple, but to others, it was very obscure. Thinking of this, the corner of her lips could not help but reveal a faint smile. It seemed that the heavens were really on her side. Originally, in her view, wanting to pull apart the gap with other alchemists was not easy. But after this hurdle, it seemed that she could already pull apart a considerable gap. Since the slots to enter the immortal cloud mystic realm were so important, the more the better. When she turned her head, she found that the two elders were also worried at this moment. The pen in their hands fell down hesitantly. Obviously, they were not sure of the answer. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but inwardly sigh. It was a pity that she could not cheat. Otherwise, she could directly tell the two elders the answer. Then, they would definitely achieve good results in this pill refining competition. It wasn't that she didn't have such thoughts, but since the alchemy competition had existed for so many years, there was already a set of rules. Cheating would probably be discovered immediately. By then, not only would her results be invalidated, but her family would also be implicated. Naturally, she wouldn't do anything unnecessary. Boom! Another resounding voice came over, reminding the alchemist that the time was up. Everyone stopped what they were doing, but there were still a few alchemists who wanted to answer. In the next moment, the paper in front of him was ignited and turned into ashes, leaving nothing behind. He had naturally lost the right to answer. Chapter 4726. Compared to the first round of tests, the pill refiners on the competition stage were all holding their breaths, their faces filled with anxiety. Because in the first round, they were very clear about their results. But for the second round, they were not clear about their results. If they were not careful, there was a possibility that they would fail miserably. The people on the viewing platform were equally anxious. The quota to enter the divine cloud mystery realm was very important to the great families. Once their own pill refiner was eliminated, they would have to pay an even higher price to exchange for the quota from the other families, and would even owe them a great debt of gratitude. Most importantly, even so, they could not guarantee that their own families would be able to exchange for the quota. Actually, in every pill refining competition, the one thing that everyone does not hope for the most is to test their knowledge. This is just too reliant on luck. Even a 9th grade pill refiner could fail miserably. Isn't that so? Even the pill refiners on the stage are looking worried. The way I see it, the number of people eliminated in this round is going to be terrifying. Hearing the discussions of the pill refiners below the stage, Dichiyuan's eyes could not help but show a trace of worry. Before this, he had heard the two elders mention that they hoped that they would not be tested on their knowledge. But it just had to happen. One must know that once one is eliminated, there would be no results at all. It was not just the D family. The Jun family, Xiao family, and Lin family's elders were all worried. They did not even ask for a good result, as long as they did not get eliminated. Young Master Jun, don't worry. That Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely not stay. Xiao Sudong could not help but say. Xiao Soa nodded as well. No matter how calm she appears now, the results later on will not lie. Seeing that everyone was so certain, the tension in Jun Lingxuan's heart relaxed a little. After all, he had a lot of cultivation resources in his ring. He had come here this time to enter the divine cloud mystery realm, so his family had placed the resources into his ring early on. If he were to lose this bet, then his precious cultivation resources would be gone. What's more, it would benefit Di Beichun and Di Xiaofeng. Soon, a black light flashed on the competition stage. After a series of rapid flashes, a black light flashed in front of many alchemist tables. Even though everyone had already expected the elimination rate of this competition to be shocking, they still couldn't help but be dumbfounded when they saw it with their own eyes. More than half of the alchemists were directly eliminated in a vast expanse of black light. Noticing this scene, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, followed by lamenting. After Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the frightening elimination rate around her, a trace of astonishment flashed through her bright, pitch-black phoenix eyes. It seemed that this question really stumped the majority of alchemists. She hurriedly looked at the two elders behind her. After discovering that the two elders had not been eliminated, she could not help but let out a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as he wasn't eliminated. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun were worried as well. They didn't know if their answers were correct or not. Fortunately, they weren't eliminated, so they were relieved. Whether it was the Jun family or the Xiao family, everyone was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang would be eliminated. However, when they saw that the black light did not flash in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's table, everyone was stunned for a moment. Chapter 4727. Xiao Sou couldn't understand. No matter from which point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was bound to lose. Why did she persist? It was impossible for her to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was really a powerful alchemist. She didn't believe that a woman from the underworld would have such talent. However, she didn't know how to explain everything in front of her. Jun Lingxuan's complexion changed after noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. However, after noticing that Alchemist Qin was not eliminated, he was quietly relieved. At least, the result was not clear yet. Second cousin-in-law is really not eliminated, Lin Yi exclaimed. Her delicate little face was full of excitement. Second cousin-in-law knows a lot. Lin Xuanren also breathed a sigh of relief. Their family's alchemist was also not eliminated. In my opinion, I am afraid that 80% of the alchemists are still at the qualified level. Lin Xuanren's face was filled with emotion. It was already very good to pass this kind of unorthodox assessment. Di Qiuan nodded slightly. Not bad. Today's results have exceeded my expectations. I just don't know who will win the bet between Beiqin and Jun Lingxuan. Lin Xuanren chuckled. They also heard clearly when Di Beiqin and Jun Lingxuan made a bet. The younger generation has their own ideas, but I believe that Beiqin will win. Initially, when he heard that Di Beiqin made such a bet, he was a little worried. But after thinking about it, he still did not intervene. The younger generation had their own ideas. What's more, this was a bet between the two outstanding children of the two families. As an elder, if he intervened, he would lose Di Beiqin's face. Compared with some losses, Di Beiqin's face was equally important. As everyone knew, Di Beiqin would be the next family master of the Di family. Not only that, during this period of time, he discovered that Di Beiqin had many outstanding characteristics. Some of the things that they didn't understand before now seemed to be Di Beiqin's way of doing things. Therefore, he chose to believe in Di Beiqin. Even though the outcome of the battle had yet to be decided, he still believed in his young master's judgment. Jun Xinxiao looked at the confident Di Beiqin and couldn't help but frown. Ever since Di Beiqin and Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Originally, he thought that it was a mistake for the Di family to bring Di Beiqin back. How could a child who had been wandering outside for so many years be able to take on such an important role as the young master? However, the more he learned, the more he felt that these two people were not simple. Was the Di family really that lucky? Even though they had been wandering outside, they had still grown into such an outstanding person. Soon, the white light began to flash. When the white light stopped, everyone found that most of the qualified alchemist tables were shining with white light. Alchemist Qin's table was shining with white light. Although he was looking forward to a better result, he also knew that it was good enough to achieve a good result. After knowing the result, he immediately turned to look at the alchemists of the Di family. When he noticed that Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun were both shining with white light, Alchemist Qin couldn't help but feel relieved. At least everyone was the same. Chapter 4728. However, before Alchemist Qin could completely relax, he realized that there was no light in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's table. Alchemist Qin's eyes widened as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's table in a daze. He even suspected that the light was broken. It was such a difficult question that they needed to think for a long time. How could Bailey Hongzhuang's score be higher than theirs? When Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun saw Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, they looked at each other and smiled. In their hearts, Bailey Hongzhuang was much stronger than them. She could help them advance with just a few pointers. It was natural for her to perform well. Di Beiqin's lips curled into an evil smile. He opened his right hand and said to Jun Lingxuan, "Storage ring." Jun Lingxuan was still in shock. When he heard Di Beiqin's teasing words, his face darkened. He turned around and looked at Di Beiqin. His sharp eyes stared at him as if he wanted to see through his thoughts. Unfortunately, he could not see anything from Di Beiqin's eyes. He could only see calmness and indifference. "You two are in cahoots, aren't you?" Jun Lingxuan's face was filled with anger. When he recalled Bailey Hongzhuang's previous behavior, it was obvious that they were in cahoots with each other to trick him. If Bailey Hongzhuang could answer his questions, why did she pretend to be hesitant? When he agreed to the bet with Di Beiqin, Bailey Hongzhuang answered his questions faster. He would not believe that the two of them were not in cahoots. Xiao Sou's face darkened when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. Because it wasn't only Medicine Master Qin who had such a result, his own Medicine Master also had such a result. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually better than the Medicine Master he had always respected. When she saw that Jun Lingxuan had lost the bet, she felt even more unhappy. After all, she had urged Jun Lingxuan to agree to the bet. Now that the other party had lost, she also had a certain degree of responsibility. "What you're doing is too despicable," Xiao So said angrily. Hearing this, Di Beichen looked at Xiao Sou indifferently and then sneered. "In terms of despicableness, I can't compare to you." As soon as he said this, Xiao Sou's voice froze. Lin Xianqian also walked out and looked at Xiao Sou provocatively. "Let's not talk about the fact that we didn't scheme at all. Even if we did, so what? Compared to your actions, we are simply too kind, aren't we?" Jun Lingxuan's expression was ugly. Although he had used Medicine Master Qin's matter to trick the Di family, he had also become the subject of ridicule. Originally, he thought that if he could trample the Di family under his feet this time, it would be worth it even if he became the subject of ridicule. But looking at the current situation, his confidence was getting lower and lower. "Enough nonsense, hand over the ring." Di Beichen's voice was gentle. In front of so many people, young Master Jun wouldn't be thinking of reneging on the bet, right? It's not strange for him to renege on the bet. In any case, we have already seen how thick-skinned the other party is. Di Xiao Feng mercilessly added a stab. This young master is not someone who can afford to lose. Jun Lingxuan shouted angrily and immediately took off the ring and threw it to Di Beichen. Di Beichen took the ring and said, "Since you're so straightforward, you should directly remove the restriction." "You." Jun Lingxuan gnashed his teeth and looked at Di Beichen, but he still removed the restriction on the ring. Chapter 4729. After the white light settled down, a red light flashed. In a short period of time, the entire competition platform flashed with white and red light. Ouyang Jifeng looked at the red light flashing in front of the table, and he sighed secretly in his heart. Even though he had read a lot of books, he could only go so far in this level. Although it did not meet his expectations, it was still not bad. Turning his gaze slightly, he found that the tables of the few ninth-grade alchemists were also flashing with red light. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It seems that the alchemist with the best results can only reach good. However, when the whole audience was flashing with light, a dim spot became more eye-catching. After Di Xiaofeng froze for a moment, he looked straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. His handsome face was full of astonishment. His lips were slightly open, but he couldn't speak for a while. At this time, Lin Yi on the side couldn't help but exclaim, "Quick, look at the second cousin-in-law." If there were still people who didn't notice this situation before, after Lin Yi's shout, everyone's eyes turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. Because only Bailey Hongzhuang was left in the audience at this moment, the light in front of the table was not on. The audience was in an uproar. No way. Bailey Hongzhuang actually defeated the ninth-grade alchemist and Ouyang Jifeng? Isn't it said that this kind of question is very difficult, and the younger the alchemist, the less likely it is to have an advantage? Bailey Hongzhuang can actually reach excellent? It's terrifying. There is really a dark horse in this alchemy competition. For a time, everyone present was dumbfounded. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was good before, no one would think that she might be better than Ouyang Jifeng. And now, at least for this round, her results had surpassed Ouyang Jifeng's. After Ouyang Jifeng saw that the light in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's table was not on, his pupils shrank a little. His firm and calm face finally showed a trace of fluctuation. As early as seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he already knew that the former was a capable person, but judging from the current situation, it seemed that he still underestimated her. If Jun Lingxuan felt a little unconvinced when he lost this bet before, then looking at this scene now, he didn't know what to say. An indescribable shock spread in his heart. He couldn't imagine that this woman could do this. Is she really from the lower realm? Even in the upper realm, there is no genius who can compare with her. As he thought about this, Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but look at Xiao Sou, who was next to him. Previously, he thought that the Di family had made a stupid move by giving up on Xiao Sou. However, looking at it now, he suddenly felt that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't any weaker than Xiao Sou. In fact, she was even stronger than Xiao Sou. Even though this alchemy competition wasn't over yet, he already felt that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely be able to enter the top 100 and fight for a place for the Di family. Xiao Sou also felt as if she had been dealt a heavy blow. Looking at the white figure on the high platform, she could no longer maintain her previous arrogance. The strength that the other party had displayed made it impossible for her to continue mocking them. That would only make her look worse. Di Baichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang on the high platform. His deep, black eyes were sparkling. His wife had always been this outstanding. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled at Di Baichen. Even though there were people around them, they only had eyes for each other. Chapter 4730. Who said that the second young master of the Di family is a good-for-nothing who is obsessed with beauty? His wife is clearly a combination of beauty and strength. With such a beauty, I would rather be a good-for-nothing. This is a true beauty that can topple a city. There are many beauties who came to watch the alchemy competition this time, but since the appearance of this Bailey Hongzhuang, I feel that no woman can compare with her. The men present couldn't help but speak up. Born in the upper realm, they had seen a lot of beauties, but none of them could compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. They only felt that after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, the beauties they thought of before could not be called beauties at all. If everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was only beautiful before, it was still a notch weaker. Judging from the current situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was a more talented alchemist than Ouyang Jifeng. Marrying such a beauty was definitely a gain. For a time, Di Baichen had become the object of envy of the men present. It was a great fortune in life to have such a beauty. Di Baichen calmly accepted the envious gazes around him. He was most fortunate that he went a Fengbo country. If there was no calamity at that time, his life would be bleak. Second cousin, I suddenly feel that the men around me are looking at you with hostility. Lin Yi couldn't help but say. Even if she just stood beside Di Baichen, she could feel the unfriendly light around her, which made her feel uncomfortable. Di Xiaofeng also chuckled. I am afraid that your second cousin will become the object of everyone's jealousy now. Let's be jealous. Di Baichen's lips curled up slightly, and his handsome face was full of confidence. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, the president of the Alchemist Guild, Lu Yuhai, also showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. President, this young girl is not simple. She can achieve excellent in such a difficult question. As one of the judges, the honorary president Xue Changdong had a look of astonishment on his face. One had to know that even they had to look up information to determine the answer to this question. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually able to answer it directly. This level of knowledge was simply too shocking. Liu Hai nodded. He is indeed a genius. Logically speaking, we should have noticed such a genius long ago. Why we never heard of him? As the Alchemist Association's chairman, he had always cherished talents and liked this kind of talented youngsters the most. President, this person is the young mistress of the Di family. I heard that she came from the lower world. I didn't expect her to have such amazing attainments in alchemy. Of course, there were some well-informed people in the crowd. The Di family had caused such a big commotion this time. It was hard not to attract attention. In addition, the Di family, the Jun family, and the Xiao family had all changed during this period of time. Therefore, everyone was well aware of the situation. From the lower realms, Liu Hai was even more surprised. He was very clear about the level of alchemy in the lower realms. It seems that this Miss Bailey is also a very outstanding person in the lower realms. The Di family is really not simple. Even if the young mistress of the family has been away for so many years, she is still very outstanding after returning. Indeed, the Di family's position has been stable for so many years. Naturally, they have their reasons. Everyone nodded and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a glimmer of light in their eyes. Chapter 4731. As soon as he said this, Lu Yuhai and the others showed an expression of approval. They all wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang's answer sheet, but they didn't know to what extent she would be able to answer. We'll find out soon enough. Lu Yuhai chuckled, and in his mind he had already made up his mind. Once he received the paper, he must first check Bailey Hongzhuang's answer sheet. Next up is the golden light for excellent answers. It seems that everyone already knows the results because there is no one else here other than the Di family's Bailey Hongzhuang. Lu Yuhai stood on the high platform and spoke in a calm yet joyful voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded. There was no suspense in this answer. However, everyone was more concerned about the Alchemist Association's president's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, Liu Yuhai had deliberately mentioned Bailey Hongzhuang's name. It was obvious that he had already noticed her. Everyone secretly sighed. Once a genius like Bailey Hongzhuang was discovered by the Alchemist Association, they would definitely want to nurture her well. Come to think of it, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang this time, she was still a nobody. The next time they saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she would probably already be a famous person who was not inferior to Ouyang Jifeng. Following the flash of a golden light, everyone noticed that the light in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's table had lit up. However, when they saw this golden light, everyone's faces couldn't help but reveal a trace of doubt. This was because the golden light in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's table was different from the golden light they had seen in the first round. This ray of light was unprecedentedly bright. Even though there were many different rays of light around it, they were all covered by this golden light. Not only that, this ray of light was constantly flashing, as if it was the king of light. At a glance, everyone's attention was drawn to it. Everything around it had become a foil. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally also noticed the light in front of the table. Her clear eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. This was her first time participating in the alchemy competition, so she didn't know much about the situation. What was going on in front of her? Everyone in the audience was dumbfounded after seeing this scene. They had never seen such a situation before. Why is this light like this? How strange. Xiao Sudong said with a strange expression. Xiao Sou noticed the astonishment on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, and she couldn't help but have a thought. Could it be that the instrument made a mistake? Following Xiao Sou's words, the eyes of everyone in the Jun family lit up. It was hard for them to accept Bailey Hongzhuang's excellent results. On the contrary, if the results were wrong, everyone would think it was normal. The disciples of the Lin family and Xiao family couldn't help but worry. It wasn't easy to get such good results, so they didn't want anything to happen. When the leaders of the various large guilds noticed this scene, they were all stunned for a moment. After looking at each other, a trace of disbelief appeared in their eyes. This result is really a little scary. The leader of the Radiant Guild, Lu Hongwei, couldn't help but say. Liu Yuhai nodded. If everyone hadn't seen this with their own eyes, he would have thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Chapter 4732. Seeing that everyone agreed with her conjecture, Xiao Sou's pale face gradually showed a trace of smile. If that was the case, then all the praise that Bailey Hongzhuang had just received was fake. That would make it easier for everyone to accept. Just as the voices below the stage were getting louder and louder, Liu Yuhai stood up. He raised his hands, and the crowd instantly quieted down. I'm sure everyone feels that the light in front of Medicine Master Bailey is very strange. In fact, when we first saw it, we were also stunned. It has been a long time since such a result appeared. In the history of the alchemy competition, such a light would only appear when there's a full score. Liu Yuhai was still explaining, but in the minds of everyone present, there was only one word: full score. This was a light that would only appear when there was a full score. Not only did Bailey Hongzhuang not fail to achieve such a score as they had expected, but she also got a terrifying full score. It had always been regarded as the most difficult test for medicine masters, and it was extremely difficult to get a good score. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually got a full score. The tens of thousands of people in the square instantly quieted down. Everyone was immersed in the shock of this result. When everyone came back to their senses, there was a series of gasps coming from below the stage. Full score. I have never heard of anyone getting a full score in this test. Today is really an eye-opener. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, who would believe it? All the medicine masters stopped it good, but Bailey Hongzhuang actually got a full score. What kind of brain does she have? Everyone from the Jun family and the Xiao family froze. This result was too big a blow to them. Xiao Sou's face became even uglier than before. She really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Bailey Hongzhuang actually got a full score. Di Yunhe and Di Heng Yin also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. Even though they already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was amazing, this result was too shocking. Medicine Master Qin was speechless. He couldn't understand how the D family managed to find such a crazy daughter-in-law. Di Chuyuan and the others were no less shocked than the others. Even they did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang was this powerful. Looks like everyone has underestimated the D family this time. It's very likely that the D family is the biggest winner in this competition. I don't know why the Xiao family decided to break with the D family at this time. If they didn't do so, they could still get some places from the D family this time. The worst is the Jun family. If they lose to the D family this time, then they won't even have a single spot. When Xiao Jinfeng saw that everyone was talking about his family, he felt depressed in his heart. Before this, he knew that the D family had no chance of making a comeback. He didn't know why the situation suddenly changed, which caught him off guard. Originally, he was still thinking that he had made a wise choice. In just a short period of time, all the advantages were on the D family's side. On the contrary, their situation had become very bad. Most importantly, the Xiao family had now become a joke in the eyes of others. Xiao Sou also noticed a change in Xiao Jinfeng's expression and felt helpless. Great Elder, Chapter 4733. As soon as he said this, Xiao Sou's face turned even uglier. Her half-opened lips gradually closed, and she looked as if she had lost her soul. Even though the alchemy competition hadn't ended yet, judging from the current situation, the D family's performance this time wouldn't be bad. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang was now the center of everyone's attention. In the future, she would probably become a well-known figure. Just this point alone was enough to make her unhappy. Jun Xuanxiao's face turned from happy and complacent to gloomy. The more time passed, the more he didn't want to talk. When Medicine Master Qin walked down, he looked at Jun Xianxiao. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He couldn't help but lower his head. When he went up on stage, he said that he would definitely defeat the D family's Medicine Master. He didn't expect the result to be like this. He felt that he had lost face. However, this situation was really beyond his expectations. Who would have thought that the D family's little girl would be so terrifying? Let alone him, no one present had expected this. Everyone in the Jun family remained silent. The group of disciples even looked at the great elder's expression from time to time. Jun Zitao couldn't help but feel nervous. He thought that he had gained a big advantage in the bet with Di Beichen. However, judging from the current situation, he might have made the wrong decision. If they really lost this time, then their Jun family wouldn't have a single spot. This spot was very important to them. He had been looking forward to participating in the Immortal Cloud secret realm for a long time. Most importantly, their family had spent a lot of effort to obtain this spot. If they ended up with nothing, then they would become a joke in everyone's eyes. Di Chuyuan didn't forget to add insult to injury after seeing the gloomy atmosphere in the Jun family. Elder Jun, it seems that you won't be able to have the last laugh in this alchemy competition. Hearing this, Jun Xianxiao only glanced at Di Chuyuan coldly. He didn't answer. He only lowered his voice and said to Medicine Master Qin, who was next to him, "You must win this last round." He wasn't very optimistic because Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the second round was too outstanding. Just catching up with the points they had surpassed in the second round was already a very difficult task. He knew that the scales of victory were tilted towards the D family. However, he would not give up until the very last moment. This was because none of the three alchemists from the D family had reached the 8th rank. This was their only hope. Medicine Master Qin nodded, but his forehead was drenched in cold sweat. He felt that the Hongzhuang in this version of the game was a freak. It was too difficult to defeat her. However, he couldn't say it directly in front of Jun Xianxiao, so he could only force himself to agree. Di Chuyuan saw that Alchemist Qin was no longer as confident and arrogant as he used to be. The smile in his eyes deepened. He said, "Alchemist Qin, you must perform well in the last round. Don't lose. Otherwise, the D family will lose." As soon as he said that, everyone from the D family understood what the Great Elder meant. Smiles appeared on their faces. "That's right. Medicine Master Qin, you have to help the Jun family get as many spots as possible in this round. That way, we can have the best harvest." Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Chapter 4734. Looking at Jun Xuanxiao's angry face, Di Chuyuan said casually, How could I be earlier than you? What a joke. Jun Xuanxiao's expression froze. They were the most complacent ones before this. Before the competition had even started, they had already determined that they were the winners. Who would have thought that the D clan would give them such a resounding slap in the face? When Murong Jing saw this, he was completely relieved. It seems that you don't need to worry at all. I'll go first. I'll find you after the competition. Di Xiaofeng nodded with a smile. I'll treat you to a drink after the competition. It's a deal. Soon, the third round of the competition began. At this moment, there were only about 200 alchemists left on the high platform. If it were in the past, there would be at least 500 alchemists left in the third round. However, because the elimination rate in the second round was too high, there were only so many alchemists left. The third round of the competition is very simple. Every alchemist needs to refine the highest level of elixir they can refine. However, you only have one chance. Start now. Obviously, everyone already knew the content of the third round of the competition. They began to refine the elixir they were best at. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyan looked at each other. They had just become level 8 alchemists. They had also successfully refined level 8 elixirs, but the level was not high. Therefore, they chose to refine level 8 elixirs at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang did not start refining immediately. Instead, she was thinking about what kind of elixir she should refine. Compared to the previous 2 rounds, the third round of the competition was undoubtedly the easiest to increase the score. Most importantly, there was no elimination in the third round of the competition. Therefore, any kind of score was possible. Although she was not sure how many points there would be between the 2 levels, it would not be a small difference. There were several level 9 alchemists present. They must refine level 9 elixirs. However, she was only a level 8 alchemist. She could not compete with them in this aspect. In this way, if she wanted to get a better score, she had to work hard on the choice of elixir. After pondering for a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang chose the pill she wanted to refine, the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. The 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill was a very famous pill among Tier 8 pills. It could help a cultivator stabilize their cultivation. Most importantly, while stabilizing their cultivation, it could also help a cultivator increase their potential. Many cultivators were stuck at a bottleneck and were unable to break through. This was because there were some hidden dangers in their previous cultivation that affected their chances of breaking through. Generally speaking, under such circumstances, even if they consumed pills that could help them break through, it would not have much effect on them. However, the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill could do it. It was precisely because of this that the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill was a pill that many cultivators desired. However, in the long flow of history, the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill's pill formula was lost. If Bailey Hongzhuang was representing herself in the competition, she would definitely not choose to refine such a pill, because she was very clear about the allure of this pill to everyone. However, she now had the D family behind her, so she didn't have to worry and could boldly refine them. This was the difference between having a backer and not having one. Chapter 4735. After deciding to refine the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer hesitated and quickly began to refine it. The competition stage suddenly quieted down. Apart from the occasional sound of refining medicinal herbs, there was no other sound. Below the high platform, Xiao Soa looked at the clan's alchemist who had been eliminated in the second round and could not help but ask, "Can you tell what grade of pill Bailey Hongzhuang is refining?" She had no understanding of pill refining, and even if she watched the other party refine the pill, she would not be able to tell. However, she was really curious as to what grade of alchemist Bailey Hongzhuang was. "Eldest miss, the medicinal herb she took out made it impossible for me to determine the pill formula." Xiao Honghua looked a little embarrassed. Xiao Sou frowned. "What do you mean? How can you not be able to determine it?" Xiao Honghua was their clan's 8th grade alchemist. Logically speaking, he should be able to determine the type of pill the other party was refining based on the medicinal herbs she took out. "I've never seen this type of medicinal herbs or pill formula before." Xiao Honghua was also very puzzled by this point. Logically speaking, whether it was a 7th grade or 8th grade pill formula, he was basically familiar with it. As long as the other party took out the medicinal herbs, he would be able to determine the type of pill the other party was refining. However, when he looked at the medicinal herbs Bailey Hongzhuang took out, he was unable to determine the type of pill it was. There were only two possibilities for this situation. The first possibility was that Bailey Hongzhuang was a ninth-grade alchemist, and she was refining a ninth-grade pill, which was why he did not know. The second possibility was that Bailey Hongzhuang was refining a long-lost pill or a new type of pill, which was why he did not know. No matter which of the two possibilities, Xiao Honghua felt that it was impossible. However, he could not think of a third possibility. Hearing Xiao Honghua's words, Xiao Souhu could not help but stomp her feet. She was simply about to die from anger. Until now, he still could not figure out Bailey Hongzhuang's background. Most importantly, his own clan's alchemist could not even determine the type of pill the other party was refining. Then do you know what grade of pill she refined? Xiao Sudong couldn't help but ask. Xiao Honghua pondered for a moment and said, based on the types of medicinal herbs she took out, it should be a grade 8 medicinal pill. As soon as he said this, Xiao Souhu and Xiao Sudong couldn't help but look at each other with ugly expressions. Previously, they only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang might not even be able to reach the level of a 6th-tier alchemist. Now, she was actually refining 8th-tier medicinal pills. Was this a joke? Since when was it so easy to become an 8th-grade alchemist? The members of the Jun family also heard Xiao Honghua's judgment, and their complexions turned extremely ugly. So the Di family had already planned this all along. Jun Xuanxiao's face darkened. I always thought that the Di family didn't have a level 8 alchemist. It turns out that Bailey Hongzhuang is a level 8 alchemist. No wonder they agreed to this bet. It seems that they did it on purpose. Jun Lingxuan nodded. When I saw Bailey Hongzhuang before, I had an ominous premonition. Now, it seems that my premonition was right. Great Elder, what should we do now? If Bailey Hongzhuang successfully refines an 8th-tier medicinal pill, then they will definitely win this competition, Jun Zitao said worriedly. Compared to the complacency he felt when he first mentioned this bet, he was now only worried. Jun Xianxiao fell into silence. There was nothing they could do now. Chapter 4736. No family would be able to bear such a price. Therefore, all they could do now was to wait for the result. If Bailey Hongzhuang made a mistake in this round and failed to refine the pill, that would be what they were looking forward to the most. It seems that neither Di Beichen nor Bailey Hongzhuang can be left alive. Jun Xuanxiao's eyes flashed with killing intent. He originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was nothing to be afraid of, but now his thoughts had changed. An alchemist with amazing talent, it wouldn't take long for her to become a level 9 alchemist. Her appeal in the future would be terrifying. Those good-for-nothings couldn't even handle this kind of thing properly. Jun Lingxuan and Jun Zitao looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. They originally had a good hand this time, but they didn't expect to be counterattacked in the end. This feeling was indescribably uncomfortable. At this moment, no one was in a better mood than the Di family. They came prepared to lose face, but they didn't expect to be complacent and happy. Great Elder, as long as Hongzhuang and the two elders don't make a mistake in this round, our family should be able to get a good quota. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of joy as he looked at the Great Elder and said happily. Di Qiyuan nodded slightly. That should be the case. If the family head knows about this, he will be very happy. When the result is out, we will send the news back as soon as possible. The family will also have to send more disciples to participate, Di Beichan said with a smile. Previously, because he rejected the marriage, the family disciples lost their quota. Now that they got more quotas, everyone would like Bailey Hongzhuang even more. Thinking of this, Di Beichan was in a good mood. On the competition stage, as time gradually passed, the faint fragrance of pills spread out. When the first pill fragrance spread out, it was followed by the second, then the third. Not long after, some alchemists successfully refined their pills and stood aside with smiles on their faces, waiting for the final result. During this process, the sound of failure could be heard constantly. After all, alchemy was not a 100% success rate. Even if the ranks of these alchemists were not low, there was still the possibility of the pills being destroyed. On this battle stage, if one's heart was not calm, a slight difference would lead to such a result. As one alchemist after another completed refining pills, the atmosphere on the competition stage also became tense. Many cultivators stared at the hourglass at the side. There wasn't much time left. Di Yunhe and Di Hengyun also finished refining. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and found that Bailey Hongzhuang was still refining. We don't have much time left. Madam, it seems like you haven't finished yet. Will you make it in time? Di Hengyun looked worried. There were many restrictions in this competition. Once the time was up, even if the pill was successfully refined, there would be no results. I don't think so. The Dian Crane's voice sounded uncertain. Below the high platform, Lin Yi and others saw that most of the pharmacists on the stage had stopped, but Bailey Hongzhuang still didn't stop. Worried expressions appeared on their faces. Chapter 4737. Di Chuyuan and the others couldn't help but worry. Once the time was up, no matter how high the grade of the pill was, it would be useless. Don't worry, it's not time yet, Di Beichun slowly said. Jun Lingxuan and the others saw this scene, and their eyes lit up with hope again. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't finish in the time limit, they would win. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's results were outstanding in the first 2 rounds, if she didn't get a result in this round, it would be impossible for her to enter the top 100. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang was just lucky in the first 2 rounds. Her true alchemy skills are not enough. Jun Zitao's eyes flashed with joy. This kind of result was more normal. If Bailey Hongzhuang was really that outstanding, it would be really unacceptable. If Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't get a result in this round, then the Di family's pride would be meaningless. The Jun family couldn't help but be happy because there wasn't much sand left in the hourglass. At the judges' table, the Alchemist Guild's president and the various honorary guild masters were also paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. From the performance of the first 2 rounds, Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully entered their sights. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in this round was good, they could be sure that Bailey Hongzhuang would enter the top 100 and obtain a good result. At this moment, seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang still hadn't finished refining, they were a little anxious. This girl's talent is very outstanding. If she doesn't make it in time in this round, then it would be a pity. That's right. Even if she only refined a 7th grade pill, or even a 6th grade pill, she should still be able to enter the top 100. Did you notice that the ratio of the herb she took out was not the pill formula we know? Liu Hai said. As early as when Bailey Hongzhuang started refining pills, he had already noticed this point. In his heart, he had been thinking about what kind of pill she was refining. Hearing Liu Yuhai's words, the other elders nodded. They had also noticed this point. I feel that this Miss Bailey from the lower realm is very unusual. Whether it is knowledge or ability, she is very outstanding. This time, even we were unable to recognize the pill she refined. This is really a pleasant surprise. I hope she can make it in time, said another honorary elder. Everyone nodded. With such a talented person, they also hoped that he would be able to achieve good results. The sand in the hourglass was about to run out, and the faces of the Jun family members were filled with smiles of joy. Jun Zitao's face was full of smiles. It seemed like his bet was a success after all. Just as Jun Zitao spoke, Di Beichun's cold voice rang out. You're thinking too much. As soon as these words came out, Jun Zitao couldn't help but be stunned. Just as he was about to refute, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang had already stopped. Obviously, she had finished refining. How could this be? Jun Zitao was dumbfounded. How could the timing be so good? She actually completed the refining at the last moment? Everyone in the Jun family felt as if there was an invisible hand strangling their throats. The originally happy cheers were strangled just like that, and they could no longer speak. Chapter 4738. Second cousin-in-law is playing with my heartbeat. I almost died from anxiety. Linny couldn't help but say. Lin Xianjian laughed involuntarily. In the future, when you are with Hongzhuang, your psychological endurance is really good. Otherwise, it will be unbearable to be surprised and frightened at the same time. After Bailey Hongzhuang stopped, she found that the sand in the hourglass on the side had flowed out. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Fortunately, I made it in time. If I make a mistake in this last level, it will be terrible. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun were originally anxious to death. Until this moment, they breathed a sigh of relief. Second madam, you made us anxious. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and smiled brightly. Sorry to make you worry. In fact, she had not refined the 8 turns Bodhi pill much. When she was refining, she found that it took a long time to refine a better quality 8 turns Bodhi pill. Fortunately, she made in time. Looking at the apologetic look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Di Yunhe and Di Hingyun's heart softened. Our second madam is so nice. She is so capable without any sense of arrogance. How can we not like such a good girl? In the future, if someone in the D family dares to bully the second madam, they will definitely be the first to stand up and disagree. If the second madam does not have a family in the upper realm, they will be the second madam's family in the future. When Alchemist Qin saw that Bailey Hongzhuang completed the refining at the last moment, he also secretly scolded in his heart. God is really blind. Just a little bit more, and he would have one. With a loud voice, the time was up. In this last round, the system scoring is very simple. The 6th grade medicinal pill will be scored from 0 to 40 points. The 7th grade medicinal pill will be scored from 40 to 60 points. The 8th grade medicinal pill will be scored from 60 to 80 points. And the 9th grade medicinal pill will be scored from 80 to full marks. Hearing this scoring standard, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Sure enough, the score in this last round was very wide. There was a direct difference of 40 points between the medicinal pills of different grades. Previously, she wasn't too sure why a 7th-tier alchemist's chances of winning were so low. Now, she finally understood. In the first 2 rounds, it was obviously very difficult to pull apart the scores. However, in the 3rd round, the highest score for a 7th grade medicinal pill was only 60 points. The 8th grade medicinal pill directly exceeded 20 points. This kind of gap was simply impossible to make up for. Fortunately, there weren't many 9th grade alchemists on the field. Otherwise, this would be the world of 9th grade alchemists. Low-grade alchemists wouldn't have a chance at all. The grading time for medicinal pills is rather long. Fellow alchemists can wait below the stage. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked down the stage and returned to the team. As they walked down, the members of the D family gave up their seats. Hongzhuang, 7th elder, 8th elder, you've all worked hard. Take a rest. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 smiled and sat down to rest at the request of everyone. How is it? Are you confident in this final round? Everyone couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang and the 2 elders looked at each other and said in unison, let's see the results later. Why are you still keeping us in suspense at this last moment? Lin Yi muttered. She was now more concerned about the D family's results than her own results. The medicinal pill is refined, but we don't know the score. Let's wait for the results. Di Hingyun said with a smile. Chapter 4739. While they were waiting, the entire grandstand was bustling with activity. Everyone was trying to guess the final result. While Bailey Hongzhuang was waiting, she saw a familiar figure in the distance, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Beichun, is that the Bailey family? Di Beichun looked in the direction Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing at. He immediately noticed a familiar figure. Bailey Yunyan. The 100 Lane clan was some distance away from where they were. Previously, he had been looking around, but he hadn't noticed it. At this moment, because the alchemist on the high platform had come down, he was able to see a relatively distant place. That should be it. Di Beichun smiled. Looking at the Bailey family, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that the arrangement of the seats was based on the family's power. Compared to the D family's position, the Bailey family's position was much worse. This also showed that Bailey Hongzhuang's power could not be compared to the D family's. Thinking back, the Bailey family was one of the top families. She wondered if the Bailey family that Bailey Yunyan belonged to was her own Bailey family. When this thought appeared in her mind, she couldn't suppress it. If possible, she really wanted to find out. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughtful expression, Di Beichun could guess what she was thinking. He couldn't help but ask, Wife, are you thinking about your previous family? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It's been so many years. I don't know if they still exist. Since we've come to the upper realm, we'll have a chance to find out. Wife, there's no need to rush. After the alchemy competition ends, we'll find a chance to ask Miss Yin about it. Di Beichen's gaze was gentle. If his wife wanted to do something, he would do it with her. He wouldn't let her have any regrets. A warm smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Okay. After returning to her senses, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Bailey Yunyan had also seen her and was smiling at her. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also nodded in response. They had not seen each other for a while since they had parted. However, she noticed that Bailey Yunyan's gaze was more focused on Di Xiaofeng, who was behind her. Lin Yi was surrounding Di Xiaofeng at this moment. In fact, as long as Di Xiaofeng was there, Lin Yi's eyes could not tolerate anyone else. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other helplessly. This was Di Xiaofeng's own love dead, and they couldn't do anything about it. It looks like Yi is going to be sad. Xiaohei sighed inwardly. Although it didn't have a high EQ, it knew that Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan loved each other. Just thinking of Lin Yi's cute appearance, it didn't want to see her sad appearance. In fact, Yi is so cute. There are many men who like her. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. With Lin Yi's likable personality, it would be true happiness if she met a man who doted on her. Di Beichun held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and said, "What should be experienced will be experienced. In fact, it may not be a bad thing for Yi. When she meets the person who only has her in his heart, she will understand." Chapter 4740. At the judges' table, the 5 honorary presidents were examining the pills one by one and giving their scores. Because there were more people, it took a little longer. However, when it came to the pill refined by Bailey Hongzhuang, the 5 alchemists were stumped. Looking at the perfectly round pill in front of them with 8 patterns on it, they couldn't help but feel troubled. "President, I have to ask you to come over." Liu Yuhai also noticed the expressions of the 5 alchemists. He had planned to come over and take a look, but when he heard this voice, he immediately walked over. "What's the problem?" "President, look at this pill." Shui Zhangdong pointed at the pill in front of him and said, "This pill doesn't seem to be the kind of pill we usually come across." Hearing this, Liu Yuhai couldn't help but be stunned. There was actually a pill that could stump the 5 honorary presidents. However, when he looked at the pill in front of him, he also couldn't help but feel troubled. Just as Shui Zhangdong said, he really didn't recognize this pill. "What kind of pill is this?" Shui Zhangdong looked puzzled. Judging from the color and aura, this pill's grade is probably not low. Moreover, there are 8 patterns on it, which proves that the refinement was perfect. Which alchemist refined this? Liu Yuhai couldn't help but ask. "President, this was refined by Miss Bailey from the D family." "Oh, so it was her." Liu Yuhai suddenly understood. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang refining it, he already felt that the pill refined was not simple. As expected, it was something they didn't know. In fact, he kept thinking about the medicinal herbs that Bailey Hongzhuang had taken out to refine. Finally, a possibility appeared in his mind. "I think this pill might be the long-lost 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill." Following Liu Yuhai's words, shock appeared on the faces of the 5 alchemists present. 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill? Shui Zhangdong was stunned. This pill has been lost for a long time. Even if many alchemists want to restore this pill formula, no one has succeeded. How could it appear? The pill formula of the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill has indeed been lost for many years. No one in the upper realm knows about it. But don't forget, this Lady Bailey came from the lower realm. She might have obtained the inheritance of the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. Liu Yuhai, on the other hand, did not find this strange. Back then, the upper realm and the lower realm were originally the same world. It was only later that they separated. However, this didn't mean that what the upper realm didn't have, the lower realm didn't. Take a closer look. According to the records in the ancient books, the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill has a sweet fragrance. Its entire body is light green, and there are pill veins on it. The more pill veins there are, the better the effect of the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. At most, there will be 8 pill veins. The pill in front of you is like that. After Liu Yuhai's reminder, The description of the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill appeared in everyone's minds. Sure enough, all the characteristics matched up. It is said that the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill is called the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, but it is very difficult to refine 8 pill veins. Generally, it is very good to be able to refine 6 pill veins. Could this be a perfect 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill? Shui Zhangdong couldn't help but exclaim. If this was true, then Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills were probably more powerful than they had thought. Lu Yuhai nodded. It's very possible. Chapter 4741. The alchemy competition was an extremely important competition. Every major force was participating, so they couldn't afford to make any mistakes during the grading. If Bailey Hongzhuang really refined a perfect 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, then her score would naturally be raised. Hearing this suggestion, the other 4 alchemists nodded in agreement. That's right. We must clarify this matter. Otherwise, we won't be able to give everyone an explanation. Seeing that everyone agreed with this suggestion, Lu Yuhai nodded. Then I'll go and ask. Everyone below the stage was waiting for the final grading result. This would determine each family's quota. Therefore, they had been paying close attention to the situation at the judges' table. Suddenly, they saw the Alchemist Guild's president walk down the stage. When the alchemists behind him walked down as well, a strange expression appeared on everyone's faces. What's President Lu doing? Why did he suddenly run down without grading? That's right. Why did the other judges run down as well? What are they trying to do? This old man has watched so many alchemy competitions, but this is the first time I've seen such a situation. For a moment, everyone's attention was attracted by the actions of Lu Yuhai and the others. At such a time, it was difficult for such actions not to attract attention. Di Beichen and the others also noticed this scene. Most importantly, they realized that Lu Yuhai and the others seemed to be heading towards them. Beichen, why do I feel that President Lu and the others are walking towards us? Di Xiaofeng frowned and couldn't help but ask. Di Beichen also looked at him and nodded. I have the same feeling. As he said that, he couldn't help but turn his gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang. If Lu Yuhai and the others were really walking towards them, then the person they were looking for could only be Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone from the Jun family and Xiao family also noticed this scene, and their eyes lit up. However, they didn't know if it was a good or bad thing for Lu Yuhai and the others to come over. Alchemist Qin's eyes lit up with pleasant surprise. Could it be that they discovered something wrong with Bailey Hongzhuang during the competition? One had to know that the alchemy competition had been held so many times, but such a thing had never happened before. Something must have gone wrong. Soon, Lu Yuhai and the others arrived in front of the Di family. Elder Di. Lu Yuhai looked at Di Chuyuan with a smile on his face. Guild Master Lu. Di Chuyuan hurriedly replied with a smile. As the president of the Alchemist Association, Lu Yuhai's status was equivalent to the head of an aristocratic family. Even he had to be very respectful when facing him. Moreover, medicinal pills were something that every family needed. Hence, no one was willing to obtain the Alchemist Association. I came here at this moment to ask Miss Bailey a question. Lu Yuhai's attitude was very cordial. He had always been very patient with genius alchemists. Seeing that Lu Yuhai was indeed looking for Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone's expression became complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and said, "Greetings, President Lu. Greetings, honorary presidents." Lu Yuhai smiled faintly and waved his hand. Miss Bailey doesn't need to be so reserved. To be honest, we came here to ask about the medicinal pill you refined this time. I'm ashamed to say this, but is the pill you refined the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill? Chapter 4742. What kind of joke is this? President Lu and the others don't know what kind of pill Bailey Hongzhuang is refining? I've never seen President Lu and the others like this before. This is too unbelievable. 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. Even more cultivators shifted their attention to the pill. Although this pill had been lost for a long time, everyone was familiar with its name. Wasn't the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill lost a long time ago? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang has successfully refined it? That's impossible. All these years, Many alchemists have tried to recreate the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, but they've never succeeded. If Bailey Hongzhuang is really refining the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, doesn't that mean that she has the lost pill formula? Suddenly, a fiery or suspicious gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, all of them wanting to know the real result. If this was true, it would be incredible. One had to know that this pill was something that everyone desperately needed. When the D family heard this news, they were all dumbfounded. Di Yunhe was even more shocked. Second Madam actually refined the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill? Di Hingyun was also astonished. He didn't know whether this was true or not. Under everyone's passionate gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. That's right. It's the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, Lu Yuhai and the others sighed in their hearts. It seemed that their judgment was correct. I see. I didn't expect Miss Bailey to have the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill formula at such a young age. She's really amazing. Lu Yuhai praised Bailey Hongzhuang without hiding anything. He secretly decided that he would definitely pay her a visit after the alchemy competition. Not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was a talent that they wanted to rope in. The 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill formula was also very important to the Alchemist Guild. If Bailey Hongzhuang was just a junior worth roping in before, then now Bailey Hongzhuang was a talent that they must rope in. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the crowd went into an uproar. Linny didn't know what to say to express her feelings at this moment. She just looked at the calm and indifferent Bailey Hongzhuang. She felt that her second cousin-in-law was too abnormal. Thinking back to the time when second cousin-in-law cured her aunt, she had already sighed in her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang was able to cure the disease that so many doctors were unable to cure. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to easily take out the long-lost elixir that everyone was envious of. She suddenly felt that her second cousin-in-law was a treasure. It seemed that anything could happen to her. President Liu is overpraising me. I'm just lucky to have this pill formula. However, at this moment, everyone was not in the mood to listen to Bailey Hongzhuang's details. There was only one thought in their minds. That was, Bailey Hongzhuang had the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill formula. Every family had many cultivators stagnant in their cultivation. The 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill had always been the elixir that everyone yearned for. Now it had appeared. Everyone's heart couldn't help but shine with hope. This was their gospel. Chapter 47-43. The 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. Jun Xianxiao muttered to himself. How could the D family possibly have this lost pill formula? Great Elder, I recall that the D family doesn't have this pill formula. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill formula belongs to her? Jun Lingxuan revealed an incredulous expression. He also understood that if the D family really did have this lost pill formula, they would have taken it out long ago. They wouldn't have waited until now. Thus, there was only one possibility left. This pill formula belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang herself. When he recalled how Bailey Hongzhuang had easily obtained a radiant vine in the underground market, he still couldn't figure out how she had done it. However, based on the current situation, since Bailey Hongzhuang possessed the lost pill formula, she must have many valuable items. Not to mention anything else, just this long-lost pill was already full of temptation to others. Jun Xuanxiao's expression turned solemn. If that's really the case, then this Bailey Hongzhuang is somewhat frightening. Previously, he had never placed Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes. He simply didn't need to pay attention to an ant like her. However, in this alchemy competition, Bailey Hongzhuang had practically overshadowed everyone else. Even Ouyang Jifeng, who had always been sought after by everyone, had been completely overshadowed by Bailey Hongzhuang, becoming an existence in the background. This is impossible. Xiao Shou couldn't help but exclaim. She's just a woman from a lower realm. How could she possibly have a lost pill formula? She must have used some kind of pill to imitate the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. President Liu, don't be fooled by her. Xiao Shou felt that if she continued to stay here, her brain would become abnormal. Her previous performance was already unbelievable, and now, such news had spread. This was simply a fantasy, all right? For a moment, Xiao Sou felt that she must be dreaming. Otherwise, how could so many impossible things happen at the same time? Lu Yuhai admired Bailey Hongzhuang very much. When he heard Xiao Sou's words, he couldn't help but frown. Miss Lu, are you doubting my judgment? It wasn't just guild leader Lu. The other apothecaries also had ugly expressions on their faces. Although they also knew that Xiao Sou was questioning Bailey Hongzhuang, these words were also questioning their poor eyesight. They couldn't even distinguish the types of medicinal pills. Hearing Lu Yuhai's words, Xiao Sou was slightly taken aback. Xiao Jinfeng, who stood to the side, hurriedly said, President Lu, she was just speaking nonsense in a moment of desperation. I hope you don't take it to heart. Seeing this, Lu Yuhai did not say anything further. He had also heard of the conflict between Xiao Sou and Bailey Hongzhuang. He treated it as a dispute between the younger generation and could not be bothered to say anything more. Xiao Jinfeng broke out in cold sweat. Even their Xiao family couldn't easily offend a colossus like the Apothecary Association. President Lu, I don't mean to doubt you, but do you think that she would have such a precious pill formula? Xiao Sou couldn't help but ask. Not only Xiao Sou, but many cultivators present also had the same doubts. This pill formula was not available in the entire upper realm, yet a woman from a lower realm actually had it. It was truly inconceivable. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Xiao Sou. She realized that this woman was really stubborn. Chapter 47-44. The sudden voice attracted everyone's attention. Everyone was curious about who would stand up and say such a thing at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang also had some doubts in her heart, but she felt that this voice was a bit familiar. For a time, everyone's eyes turned to the source of the voice. At this glance, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to find that the person who spoke was the old man who exchanged the light vine with her in the underground market a few days ago. Di Beichin and others also looked at this figure in confusion, but they had never seen this person before. Hey, isn't this the stall owner in the underground market that day? Lin Yi looked at the familiar figure in surprise. She didn't expect to see him here. She didn't expect that the stall owner would stand up to testify at this time. Listening to Lin Yi's words, Di Beichin and others understood. Who is this person? He actually stood up to testify at this time. What he said might not necessarily be believed by others. Just as the younger generation was questioning one after another, the older alchemists present looked at this figure and were stunned on the spot. Lu Yuhai looked at the figure behind him in surprise and said, Old President, you finally appeared. Shui Zhongdong and other pharmacists all had a look of surprise on their faces. They looked at this figure in disbelief, worried that it might be an illusion. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang and others heard Lu Yuhai address the stall owner as the old president, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had expected that the identity of this old man was not simple, she didn't expect it to be to this extent. After all, it was not an ordinary cultivator who could take out the light vine and many precious herbs. It was just that the old president of the Pharmacists Guild was a big shot. Why would he think of setting up a stall in the underground market? Great Elder, is this the old president of the Pharmacists Guild? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Di Qiuan nodded slightly. His face was also stunned. Yes, he is President Ku Dekang. He didn't expect that the person who did business with Bailey Hongzhuang would be Ku Dekang. Old President, I finally meet you. Lu Yuhai didn't care about anything else at this moment and quickly walked in front of Ku Dekang. Ku Dekang waved his hand casually. What's there to be excited about seeing an old man like me? Old President. Lu Yuhai's eyes were slightly red, and a complicated light flashed in his deep eyes. A smile appeared on Ku Dekang's face as his gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. This little girl is indeed not simple. As he spoke, Ku Dekang gave Bailey Hongzhuang a knowing smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's face also showed an elegant smile. Although this identity made her very surprised, it was not a bad thing. Hearing this, Lu Yuhai and the others recovered from the surprise of seeing Ku Dekang. Recalling what Ku Dekang had said before, they couldn't help but ask, Old President, what did you mean by what you said just now? I said that I can testify for this girl. This girl does indeed have a lost pill formula. Dekang spoke again. The D family is really lucky to have such a daughter-in-law. As he spoke, Kudachang's gaze fell on Di Chuyuan. Di Chuyuan hurriedly cupped his hands. He knew that this old president was a very important person. Chapter 47-45. What kind of person was the Alchemist Association president? Even he was praising Bailey Hongzhuang. It could be seen how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang was. Di Chuyuan and the others were also pleasantly surprised. They never thought that their second young mistress would receive such praise from the old president. In comparison, the Xiao family and Jun family's expressions became abnormally ugly. Originally, in their opinion, killing Bailey Hongzhuang was no different from killing a grasshopper, but they did not expect that such a small character, who they did not put in their eyes, would jump so high in the alchemy competition. Old president, how can you prove that Bailey Hongzhuang has the lost pill recipe? Xiao So couldn't help but ask. Dekang looked at Xiao So meaningfully and said with a smile, "Old man, my hidden illness was cured by this Bailey girl's pill recipe. Could it be that the Xiao family's girl thinks that my ability to identify pills isn't as good as yours?" As Kudachang's voice fell, everyone immediately understood. Old president, has your hidden illness been cured? Liu Yuhai's voice was filled with excitement, and it even trembled a little. Dekang nodded. Back then, I said that if my hidden illness couldn't be cured, I wouldn't return. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at the Great Elder. It was clear that among them, only the Great Elder knew about this old president. This President Dekang is the previous president of the Alchemist Association. His alchemy skills can be said to be at the peak of perfection. It is said that he can already refine 10th grade pills. Once this was said, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes were filled with astonishment. Alchemy skills were the same as cultivation. The further one progressed, the harder it was to improve. Although there was only a difference of 1 grade between a 9th grade alchemist and a 10th grade alchemist, the majority of 9th grade alchemists were unable to refine 10th grade pills. It's just that something happened later. President Dekang could no longer refine 10th grade pills. Since then, he announced his retirement and passed the position to President Liu. He has never appeared again. When this news came out at that time, it caused a great sensation. No one understood why President Dekang chose to retire suddenly at that time. Now it seems that he has a hidden illness. Until this moment, Di Chuyuan connected all of this. It turned out that the problem was here. It turns out to be the case. Everyone was stunned. But in that case, isn't second cousin-in-law more powerful? Lin Yi couldn't help but say, the problem that President Dekang couldn't solve for so many years was solved by second. With Lin Yi's words, everyone's eyes were looked at her. That was the case. After everyone knew Kudachang's identity, no one doubted his words anymore. After all, as the former president of the Alchemist Association, it was absolutely impossible for him to fake this kind of thing and do something that would damage his reputation. So, I'm afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang has more than one kind of lost pill recipe. Yes, this 8 turns Bodhi pill is a kind of medicinal pill to treat the old president's hidden illness. It is another kind. Bailey Hongzhuang has too many treasures. If that's the case, I'm really starting to envy the D family. They're just too lucky. Chapter 47-46. When I saw the Jun family and the Xiao family joining forces, I thought the D family would be in trouble this time. Now, it seems that the D family will not be in trouble. On the contrary, they may even increase their influence because of this. Yes, the situation this time has really taken a turn. If we don't see the end, we won't be able to tell who the real winner is. It was not until this moment that everyone understood why the D family made such a decision. It turned out that they had already considered it carefully. Their previous judgment had been wrong. How could a giant like the D family take the risk to make such an outrageous move without thinking about it properly? They were still too naive. However, just as everyone thought so, the members of the D family sighed in their hearts. Like everyone else, they had just found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had so many trump cards. Obviously, even if they explained now, no one would believe them. Jun Xianxiao looked at Di Chu Yuan gloomily. I haven't seen you for a while. I didn't expect your acting skills to improve so much. Thank you for the compliment, Di Chu Yuan said indifferently. Since no one would believe him, even if he explained, he might as well admit it directly. Anyway, Bailey Hongzhuang was already their second young madam. Even if others were envious, they could not do anything about it. Little Bailey, I owe you a favor. Kudekang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Compared to the way he looked at others, the way he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously gentler and more amiable. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and said, Senior, you are too polite. The deal we made back then has already been completed. You don't owe me anything. Back then, she had seen through Ku De Chang's hidden illness and chose to give him the pill formula. If not, Kudekang would not have agreed to the deal so quickly. He did not even have the time to consider it. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's magnanimous appearance, Ku De Chang's eyes were filled with admiration. Little Bailey, although the value of what I gave you is not low in my eyes, it is far from being comparable to what you gave me. You're not someone who likes to take advantage of others, so this old man naturally won't take advantage of you. Therefore, I owe you this favor. You don't have to say anything more. If you need this old man's help in the future, feel free to ask. Ku De Chang's tone was resolute, not giving Bailey Hongzhuang any chance to refuse. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. From the other party's attitude, she understood that if she continued to speak, it would only make Kudekang unhappy. Therefore, she did not say anything more. Thank you, Senior. That's more like it. Kudekang revealed a satisfied look. Liu Yuhai and the others never thought that the person who cured the old president would be Bailey Hongzhuang, and their hearts were filled with gratitude. Until now, Kudekang was still the only alchemist who was able to refine Tier 10 medicinal pills. Him being able to return had a great significance to the Alchemist Association. Miss Bailey, you cured the old president's hidden illness. Our entire Alchemist Association owes you a favor. Liu Yuhai's gaze was deep and his voice was sincere. He thanked Bailey Hongzhuang from the bottom of his heart. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, he did not know if he would have the chance to see the old president in this lifetime. One must know that the old president had done him a great favor. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. Liu Yuhai's reaction was also out of her expectations. However, this was also a good thing to her. Chapter 47:47. The cultivators of the D family looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't know what to say. They felt as if a pie had fallen from the sky and smashed onto their heads. The Alchemist Guild suddenly owed them a favor. Although it was owed to Bailey Hongzhuang was now a member of the D family. Was there anything more surprising than this? Sister-in-law, you really are our D family's lucky star. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but say. Originally, they were bound to lose this time, but Bailey Hongzhuang had completely turned the situation around. Now, not only were they not at a disadvantage, they were even in the limelight. Among the many forces, which family could be more famous than them? As soon as this was said, whether it was the cultivators of the D family or the Lin family, they couldn't help but nod. In their eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was a shining lucky star. After confirming that Bailey Hongzhuang was refining the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, Liu Yuhai and the others didn't continue to stay here. After all, the most important thing now was to evaluate the points of the alchemy competition. Compared to the previous silence, the audience couldn't be quiet anymore. Many of the families that were on good terms with the D family were now secretly regretting it. Their relationship with the D family was originally very good, but after knowing that the Xiao family and the Jun family had joined forces, they subconsciously kept some distance from the D family. Who would have thought that there would be such a reversal in the end? However, even if they tried to get closer to the D family now, they were afraid that the D family would still have a thorn in their hearts. The Murong family originally had some opinions about Murong Jing being so close to Di Xiaofeng at this time. But at this moment, they felt that Murong Jing's actions were really right. Not long after, Liu Yuhai stood up from the referee's seat. He looked at the crowd below the high platform and said, "To everyone's anticipation, the results are out." Everyone's faces were either filled with nervousness or anticipation. Only the top 100 would be able to obtain a place to enter the immortal cloud mystic realm. As long as they were alchemist clans who had persevered until the very end, they would inevitably be filled with anticipation. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked at the huge black stone on the high platform. The names of the top 100 alchemists would appear on it. 100th place, Mo Dingling. Points, 90, 65, 75, total score, 230. 99th place, Hejun. His scores were 91, 64, and 78. His total score was 233. One after another, the names of the pharmacists appeared on the black stone from bottom to top. All the clans who discovered that the names of their own alchemists had appeared at the top of the rankings. Although their points were at the bottom of the rankings and they did not have many slots, the slots to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm were already very difficult to obtain. Even if they were able to obtain one more slot, it would still be a joyous occasion. Moreover, this was not only related to the quota. On the other hand, it also reflected the ability of their own alchemists, which was helpful in increasing the clan's influence. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' gazes were all focused on the black stone. They discovered that as the rankings were getting closer and closer to the front, the gap between the points was getting smaller and smaller. There were even 2 decimal places after the decimal point. The closer it is to the front, the smaller the gap between the points between the cultivators. Often, a difference of a few tenths of a point can lead to a difference in the rankings. Di Chuan slowly said. Soon, the last 50 names were all displayed. Chapter 4748. This guy was very arrogant when he was in the D family. He didn't take Di Yunhe and Di Yunhe seriously at all. Now that they were both level 8 alchemists, Di Hongyan wanted to know how big the gap was between them. Although Alchemist Qin had been a level 8 alchemist for a long time and had more experience than them, since they were both level 8 alchemists, the gap shouldn't be too big. Alchemist Qin also noticed Di Hongyan's gaze and said coldly, "Why are you looking at me? Do you think you can surpass me? Why are you so arrogant? Even if I'm not your opponent, you can't compare to our second madam." Di Hongyan sneered. "You were so arrogant when you left the D family. I want to see how much you can bring to the Jun family. Then wait patiently. At least it's better than you and Di Yunhe. After so many years, you're still level 7 alchemists. I think you'll be stuck here for the rest of your lives." Di Yunhe turned around and said with a smile, "Alchemist Qin, you're wrong. Let me tell you, we're already level 8 alchemists. Don't think you're so great just because you're in level 8 alchemist. You used to be so arrogant in front of us and said we weren't talented enough. Now it seems like you need to improve your vision." Alchemist Qin was stunned. At this moment, he didn't care about Di Yunhe's mockery. He focused all his attention on the fact that Di Yunhe had become a level 8 alchemist. "Are you kidding?" Alchemist Qin sneered. "Even if you want to show off, you don't have to exaggerate things like this. You should know that it's easy to see through this. Level 8 alchemists at the same time? You too? You must be dreaming." "Haha," Di Yunhe chuckled. "We've always been honest people. We're not like you. This kind of thing can't be faked. The results will be out soon. Open your dog eyes and see." Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun ignored Alchemist Qin. When they thought about how arrogant this guy was in front of them before, they felt a burst of displeasure. Today, they could be considered to be able to completely turn the tables. If Alchemist Qin had heard Di Yunhe's conversation before, he wouldn't have taken it to heart. However, after being slapped in the face again and again, he felt that something was wrong with him. Could it be that what the other party said was true? Advancing to become an 8th-tier alchemist was not an easy task, not to mention that both of them had advanced at the same time. Alchemist Qin thought about it for a while, but he still felt that it was impossible. 27th place, Di Hongyun. 8th Elder, you are 27th. The members of the D family were pleasantly surprised. One had to know that this quota was enough to help the D family obtain many quotas to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Most importantly, in their opinion, it was basically impossible for the 8th Elder to enter the top 100. Now, not only did he enter, but his score was also so high. How could they not be surprised? Di Hongyun also smiled happily. In fact, he had been a little worried before he saw his name. Chapter 4749. Only at this moment did he completely relax. However, such a ranking still made him feel incomparably pleasantly surprised. When you look, you got 77 points in the third round. Di Yunhe paid more attention to Di Hongyun's score. Not to mention the first 2 rounds, the third round score was already shocking enough. Logically speaking, they had just become level 8 alchemists. Even if they had successfully refined level 8 elixirs, their score shouldn't be too high. But now, Di Hongyun had reached 77 points. This was unbelievable in their eyes. Hearing Di Yunhe's words, Di Hongyun also noticed this point. His eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of surprise. Yeah, I didn't expect my score to be so high. No wonder my ranking is so high. Di Hongyun thought carefully for a moment. If it was any other time, this would be impossible. Yunhe, in my opinion, this is caused by the alchemy skills that second young madam taught us. When I was refining, I felt that the quality of the elixirs was better than the ones we refined before. Di Hongyun thought and said. Di Yunhe nodded slightly. We have the same thought. After thinking about it, they couldn't think of any other reason. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang telling them the details of refining elixirs, they were very shocked. This method was quite different from what they usually did. Now, it seemed that the effect was better than they thought. Alchemist Qin was shocked when he saw Di Hongyun's score. This was because the score in the third round proved that Di Hongyun had refined a level 8 elixir. Moreover, the quality of the elixirs was very outstanding. How could this be? Alchemist Qin was in disbelief. When he was in the Di family, he clearly knew that Di Hongyun was a level 7 alchemist. Not only that, according to what he knew, Di Hongyun was not only a level 7 alchemist, but also a level 8 alchemist. How could Di Hongyun reach this level in such a short time? Jun Xianxiao and the others were also stunned when they saw that Di Hongyun was ranked 27th. They didn't take Di Hongyun seriously at all. They thought that it was impossible for him to enter the top 100. However, the 27th place on the ranking board blinded them. How did Di Hongyun achieve such a ranking? Jun Xianxiao could no longer remain calm. He's just a 7th grade alchemist. It's impossible for him to enter the top 100. Xiao Jinfeng also had a puzzled look on his face. This matter is indeed a little strange. According to what they knew, the Di family did not have a level 8 alchemist. It was precisely because of this that the Di family had wanted to exchange a few places with them, but they had refused. If Di Hongyun was an 8th tier alchemist, then the Di family wouldn't have needed to do such a thing. 26th place, Qin Shixin, points for the 3 rounds. 89, 69, 79. 6. Then, Qin Shixin's name appeared on the ranking stone. This ranking doesn't seem to be that high. Chapter 4750. I thought this alchemist Qin was very powerful before. I didn't expect him to be as powerful as I thought. Lin Yi couldn't help but say. Di's eyes also glanced at Qin Shixin contemptuously. This guy was so arrogant when he was in our family. He always looked down on 7th elder and 8th elder. Now, his score is only 1 point higher than 8th elder. I don't know why he was so arrogant before. It's ridiculous. Not only Di's eyes, but everyone in the Di family had the same thought at this moment. If this guy was really so strong, they could accept his arrogance. However, he obviously didn't have such strength, yet he still put on such airs. That was really too much. Qin Shixin's face became extremely ugly after seeing his ranking. He didn't expect that he would have such a ranking. Logically speaking, with his strength, he should at least enter the top 20. He didn't expect that he would stop here this time. Most importantly, his ranking was only 1 place higher than Di Hongyun. Wasn't this a slap in the face? Everyone in the Jun family also looked at the score above in disbelief. They hoped that Qin Shixin could get a good result. Obviously, this was not a good result. If there was no bet with the Di family, it would be fine. Such a ranking could also win a very good quota for the Jun family. At least, the Jun family would have enough quotas, and there would still be a surplus. But now, it was obviously not such a situation. Alchemist Qin, you told me before that you would definitely enter the top 20. Jun Xianxiao opened his thin lips, and his voice was already cold. They had spent a lot of money to invite Qin Shixin in the beginning. In order to bring down the Di family this time, they had invested a lot. However, such a result did not meet their expectations at all. Jun Lingxuan and others' faces were also ugly. From the moment they saw Qin Shixin's ranking, they knew that they had lost the bet this time, because Bailey Hongzhuang's ranking had not come out yet. No matter which round, Bailey Hongzhuang's results were better than Qin Shixin's. This meant that their quota this time would be given to the D family. Thinking of this, everyone's face turned a little pale. Alchemist Qin, could it be that I'm the one who's been fooled? Are you actually a spy sent by the D family? Jun Xianxiao narrowed his eyes. His sharp gaze shot straight at Qin Shixin, as if he could see through all his thoughts. Qin Shixin couldn't help but be stunned. He quickly waved his hand and said, "Great Elder, you have to believe me. I'm doing this for the Jun family wholeheartedly. I don't have any other thoughts." Jun Xianxiao snorted. "How can I believe such a result? Great Elder, I didn't perform well today." Qin Shixin explained anxiously. "It's mainly because the D family situation was beyond my expectations. My state of mind was affected, so I couldn't perform well. Alchemist Qin, you clearly told us that the D family doesn't have an 8th grade alchemist. What's the situation now? How did the 8th elder of the D family suddenly become a level 8 alchemist?" Jun Lingxuan frowned as he looked at Qin Shixin. He also felt that there was something wrong with Qin Shixin. I don't know either. Qin Shixin couldn't help but feel anxious. When I was with the D family, he was really only a 7th grade alchemist. Chapter 4751. Qin Shixin nodded. "That's right, Great Elder. It's possible. Bailey Hongzhuang went to the D family after I left. I can't control this. Maybe Di Hongyun was under too much pressure before, so he became an 8th grade alchemist at this stage." Jun Xianxiao frowned. What happened this time was very different from what they had expected. Now, the whole Jun family was waiting for them to bring back good news. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. At this moment, Jun Zitao and the others couldn't help but exclaim, "How is this possible?" Hearing this, Jun Xianxiao and the others couldn't help but look at the rankings. There were 3 words written on the 25th place. Di Yunhe. Jun Xianxiao stared at the name for a long time, then looked at Qin Shixin gloomily. "What do you have to say now? If only Di Hongyun had reached the 8th grade, it might have been a coincidence. But both of them had reached the 8th grade, and they didn't know about it at all. If Qin Shixin hadn't hidden it from them, there was no other possibility." Qin Shixin stared at the rankings in a daze. He even rubbed his eyes in disbelief. How is this possible? Di Yunhe and Di Hongyun had sandwiched him in the middle. At this moment, he didn't care that his score was lower than Di Yunhe's. He just wanted to explain to Jun Xianxiao. However, in this situation, no matter how he explained, it was useless. Even he couldn't believe it. The Jun family looked at Qin Shixin with hatred. They thought that it was a good plan to poach Medicine Master Qin, but they didn't expect that they would be tricked by the D family. After all this trouble, Qin Shixin turned out to be a member of the D family. No wonder they lost so badly. Feeling the Jun family's gaze, Qin Shixin stepped back with a pale face. He really couldn't explain it. Of course, this scene didn't escape the eyes of the D family. Suddenly, they felt a burst of joy. Qin Shixin deserved this kind of punishment for betraying them. At this moment, Di Beichen's voice suddenly rang out. "Medicine Master Qin, you did a good job. We won't mistreat you." Qin Shixin was still thinking about how to explain, but when he heard Di Beichen suddenly say such a thing to him like a brother, and then looked at the Jun family's people who wished they could kill him, he really wanted to cry. But was his words useful now? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with a smile. "Beichen, you're really good at tricking people. You have to pay for what you did." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Qin Shixin. Sure enough, after this incident, Qin Shixin was afraid that there was really no way out. The Jun family would never let him go. Under such circumstances, no other family would come forward to protect him. If he was a person who valued friendship and righteousness, there might be people who would stand up for him and protect him. However, it was obvious that people like him wouldn't have such loyal friends. When the Xiao family saw that the Jun family had turned against them, they all felt uncomfortable. They could have laughed at the Jun family, but now, They were on the same side as the June family. There was no changing it. Chapter 4752. The Xiao family's alchemists performed well and reached the 16th place. If it were before, this ranking would definitely make them very happy, but now they couldn't be happy. The Lin family's alchemist ranking was relatively low, and the other alchemist was eliminated directly. However, Elder Lin was not in a hurry now, because the June family had won a lot of slots this time. With the close relationship between the two families, it was not a problem to get some slots from them. I was wondering if I could give you some slots. Now it seems that our Lin family is going to take advantage of you. Lin Xuanren couldn't help but smile. Di Qiuan also laughed. No problem. Isn't this a simple matter? At this moment, he actually felt surprised. In the past, alchemy competition had always been their family's weakness. He didn't expect it to suddenly become their strength. It's already in the top 10, but the name of second cousin-in-law hasn't appeared yet. Lin Yi couldn't help but rub her hands. Her face was full of excitement. The faces of Di Xiaofeng and others also showed a look of expectation. As a matter of fact, the top 10 were usually occupied by the 9th grade alchemists of the Alchemist Guild. The Di family had never gotten such a good ranking. Master, I don't know what place you will be. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with excitement. In fact, such a result was already outstanding, but she always felt that her master's ranking would be better. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the score on the ranking list and shook her head thoughtfully. I don't know, but I will know soon. After looking carefully, she found that Ouyang Jifeng's name had not appeared yet. It seems that Ouyang Jifeng is really powerful. According to the 7th Elder, the top 10 were basically all 9th grade alchemists. The reason why she could get such a good result was mainly that she got full marks in the second round. This Ouyang Jifeng could also enter the top 10, which showed his talent. 5th place, Ouyang Jifeng. Finally, everyone saw Ouyang Jifeng's name in anticipation. There was a burst of exclamations from the audience. With Ouyang Jifeng's age, he was able to obtain such a quota. In the future, he would definitely win the alchemy competition. Ouyang Jifeng is indeed a genius. Such a ranking is simply the pride of the younger generation. Ouyang Jifeng is indeed powerful. Originally, he was in the limelight in this alchemy competition. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly appear? Now, he is not the most eye-catching one. Bailey Hongzhuang's ranking is still not out yet. This result is a little scary. Everyone discussed animatedly. Even the other grade 9 alchemists were practically ignored by everyone at this moment. After Ouyang Jifeng saw his ranking, his expression was very calm. He turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling the other party's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a smile. Then, she saw Ouyang Jifeng give her a thumbs up. 3rd place, Zhou Yin. The 3 rounds of scores are 98, 90, 90. 2nd place, Hang Rue. The 3 rounds of scores are 98, 91, 90. Until now, Bailey Hongzhuang's name still had not appeared. Everyone already understood in their hearts. This is too scary. The Di family's Bailey Hongzhuang is actually 1st place? I have never heard of the alchemy competition being won by a 20-something alchemist. Chapter 4753. Everyone in the Di family had already expected that Bailey Hongzhuang's results would not be bad, but when they saw this result at this moment, they still couldn't believe it. Second cousin-in-law actually won 1st place? Lin Yi's eyes widened. This feeling was as if she had ascended to the clouds and stepped on the clouds. She was so happy that she couldn't believe that this was true. Di Xiaofeng and others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. This score was indeed beyond all of their expectations. Not only them, but Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be stunned for a moment when she heard this result. According to her judgment, it was already good enough to enter the top 5. She really didn't think about getting 1st place. Just when the Di family and the Lin family were immersed in joy, Xiao Sou's questioning voice suddenly sounded. This is impossible. There is a problem with the score. When everyone saw that Xiao Sou began to find trouble at this time, they were too lazy to pay attention to her. Because previously, whenever Bailey Hongzhuang had a good result, Xiao Sou would definitely find trouble, but it turned out that she was wrong in the end. Thinking about it, it was the same this time, so everyone was too lazy to take it to heart. Seeing that no one paid attention to her at all, Xiao Sou's face was also ashen. The highest score for an 8th grade medicinal pill is only 80 points. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's score in the 3rd round reached 80 points, she can't surpass the score of the 2nd place. Xiao Seiwu raised her voice so that everyone around her could hear her clearly. She had reason and evidence to back up her words. Originally, no one paid attention to her, but after hearing her words at this moment, everyone calculated a little and found that what she said was really right. Yes, Miss Xiao is right. There's indeed a problem with this score. I didn't expect such a problem to appear in this alchemy competition. We must raise it. That scared me. So it was a calculation error. I was wondering how Bailey Hongzhuang could get 1st place at such a young age. That's just too shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look at the 2nd place's score after hearing the crowd's discussion. It was just as the crowd had said. Her score shouldn't be higher than the 2nd place's. Just as everyone was guessing, the name of the 1st place was revealed. It was none other than Bailey Hongzhuang. 1st place, Bailey Hongzhuang. Her scores for the 3 rounds are 99,185 respectively. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted by Bailey Hongzhuang's score in the 3rd round. Sure enough, the score was calculated wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang's score was actually 5 points higher. At the same time, some attentive cultivators also noticed another problem. Don't be anxious. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang took away the 5 points from the 3rd round, her score would still be the same as the 2nd place's score. She could still be considered as tied for 1st place. Speaking of which, Bailey Hongzhuang is still in 1st place. Xiao Sou was originally feeling complacent about her discovery, but after listening to everyone's words, she took a closer look, and the smile on her face dissipated a little. No matter what, there must be a problem with the score. Furthermore, being tied for 1st place would also pull Bailey Hongzhuang's limelight down a little. That's true. The crowd nodded. At this moment, Lu Yuhai stood up and waved his hand at the crowd who had raised their doubts. Instantly, the crowd quietened down. Chapter 4754. Hearing Lu Yuhai's words, everyone looked at the high platform, wondering what kind of explanation he would give. Bailey Hongzhuang was also confused, but she didn't feel disappointed at all. She never wanted to have any honor that didn't belong to her, not to mention that today's results had already exceeded her expectations. I believe everyone already knows that Bailey Hongzhuang refined the long-lost 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. Lu Yuhai's voice sounded. Just because she refined a long-lost pill, she could get an extra 5 points? The cultivators below the stage couldn't help but question. In the alchemy competition, a difference of 1 point could make a difference in the rankings, let alone 5 points. The reason why she got an extra 5 points is not because she refined a long-lost pill. Everyone, please listen to me patiently. I believe some of you know about the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. This pill belongs to the 8th grade, and there's a reason why it's called the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. Every time a 1st revolution pill appears, an elixir pattern will appear. A perfect 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill will have 8 elixir patterns. In the rules of the alchemy competition, there's always been a rule. When an alchemist refines a perfect elixir, they can get an extra 5 points. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present suddenly understood. However, this answer made them even more surprised. I heard that it's very difficult to refine a perfect elixir. This kind of elixir can maximize the medicinal effect. It's said that other than the old president, no other alchemist has been able to refine an elixir of this level. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang has done it? No way. Bailey Hongzhuang's talent is too amazing. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't expect such a shock at the end of the alchemy competition. Di Yunhe and Di Hingyan looked at each other. Both of their eyes were filled with astonishment. There is indeed such a rule in the alchemy competition. However, no alchemist has been able to do so for so many years. Over time, everyone has forgotten about it. Di Yunhe said, I didn't expect second young mistress to have refined a real 8 turns Bodhi pill. This is really rare. Di Hingyan sighed. Lin Yi and other young disciples looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. Although they didn't know much about alchemy, They could tell how difficult it was to achieve this step from the stunned expressions of other alchemists. So many alchemists were unable to do it, yet Bailey Hongzhuang was able to do it. How formidable was this? After seeing the look of realization on everyone's face, Liu Hai's face also showed a smile. I believe that everyone should understand the origin of these scores now that I've explained it to this point. At this time, the alchemist ranked second spoke up. Miss Bailey is able to refine perfect-grade medicinal pills. She is indeed worthy of such a score. This one is wholeheartedly convinced. After everyone saw that the second-ranked alchemist no longer had any objections, they all nodded their heads and accepted this result. Xiao So didn't expect such a result in the end. She couldn't help but ask the alchemist and her family, "Is it really so difficult to refine a perfect elixir?" Chapter 4755. Hearing this, Xiao Sou's body trembled and her face turned pale. She knew that it was not easy to refine a perfect grade pill, but she did not know how difficult it was. However, she knew how difficult it was to become a 10th grade pill refiner. If Bailey Hongzhuang could become a 10th grade pill refiner in the future, then just this point alone would make Bailey Hongzhuang a dazzling member of the younger generation. Ouyang Jifeng had always had a very high reputation among the younger generation. The reason was that everyone thought that he was very likely to become the next Tier 10 alchemist. Now, it was obvious that Bailey Hongzhuang's potential was more outstanding than Ouyang Jifeng's. She would definitely receive attention that would not be any less than Ouyang Jifeng's. If it was said that she had been arrogant and confident in front of Bailey Hongzhuang before, then all of this was slowly disappearing. At least, before she truly became the Saint of the Light Maiden, she no longer had the right to act arrogantly in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao So indifferently. Her family background was indeed enough to crush many others. However, when a person displayed enough outstanding talent, even if she did not have a background, she would still have an unshakable position. She would protect her man with her own hands. If she wanted to covet her man, she would have to see if she had the right to do so. Thus, the once-in-a-decade pill refining competition came to an end. After the results were announced, Bailey Hongzhuang and the two elders went up on stage to collect their identity cards to enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. This identity card was blank. Once a cultivator imbued their aura into the card, their information would be revealed. As the three of them walked down the stage, the faces of the D family were filled with joyful smiles. This time, the D family had really reaped a great harvest. When Qin Shixin came down with his identity card, his expression was extremely awkward. He had thought that today would be his day of limitless glory and that he would become the Jun family's guest of honor. He never thought that he would end up in such a situation. Looking at the identity card in his hand, he didn't feel any joy at all. On the contrary, he felt very miserable. After seeing Qin Shixin come down, Di Beichen looked at Jun Zitao, second young master of the Jun family. "Do you still remember our bet?" The moment these words came out, Jun Zitao's expression became very ugly. He really regretted it now. If he had known, he would never have made such a bet. She had always thought that the second young master of the D family was a good-for-nothing. Who would have thought that he was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing? This time, he was completely defeated by Di Beichen. Jun Zitao didn't answer Di Beichen. Instead, he looked at Jun Xianxiao, his face pale and powerless. First Elder Jun Xianxiao naturally knew the stakes of this bet. He couldn't accept such an outcome. The Immortal Cloud's secret realm was an excellent opportunity for the young disciples of every family to gain experience. However, this time, there wasn't a single person left in the family, which obviously affected the development of their disciples. Elder Jun, I remember that before the start of the pill refining competition, you specifically reminded me of this bet. Now that you've lost, don't tell me that you're going to renege on your bet in front of everyone. Di Chuyuan chuckled. He glanced at the crowd behind him and looked at Jun Xianxiao with a faint smile. Jun Xianxiao looked at Di Chuyuan with a malicious gaze. The smile on his face was particularly glaring in his eyes. Here you go. Chapter 4756. Di Chuan held the identity card in his hand and smiled. Thank you so much, Elder Jun, for giving us such a big gift. Jun Xianxiao snorted and said, I'll return Qin Shixin to you as well. After that, Jun Xianxiao didn't want to look at Qin Shixin anymore. Everything had been ruined by Qin Shixin. Now, he really didn't want to see this guy anymore. Otherwise, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control his anger and would tear this guy apart in front of everyone. Let's go. Jun Lingxuan and the others glared at Di Beichen and the others before leaving with Jun Xianxiao. The Di family didn't care about the others' anger. On the contrary, they were in a good mood. When the surrounding big families saw that the Jun family's quota had all fallen into the hands of the Di family, their eyes shone with envy. The Di family is really the big winner of the alchemy competition this time. The number of quotas is terrifying. That's right. We've really watched a good show today. Who would have thought that the Jun family would still be defeated by the Di family in the end, even after scheming so much? The Di family probably won't be able to use up so many quotas. I think we should think of a way to use our resources to exchange for a few quotas from the Di family. For a moment, many families were excited. Compared to the Di family who had so many quotas, most families only had a few quotas. It was not enough at all. There are so many quotas. Our family's disciples can't use them all. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of joy. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. It seems that the family should be able to get a lot of good things this time. Di Chuyuan, who was always serious, was very happy at this moment. His image was completely different from usual. All of this is thanks to Hong Zhuang. Dai Heoan looked emotional. If it weren't for Bailey Hong Zhuang, how could they have achieved such results? Everyone nodded. In their hearts, Bailey Hong Zhuang was the biggest contributor and their lucky star. I'm sure the patriarch and the others will be very surprised when they hear this news. Second Madam, this is all thanks to you, Di Chuyuan said seriously. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and said, I'm also a member of the Di family. This is what I should do. Hearing this, everyone laughed. All the gloominess from before completely dissipated at this moment. When Xiao Jinfeng and the others saw how proud the Di family was, they felt a little sad. Even though they had gained a lot this time, they still couldn't feel happy, because they had made an unwise decision. Let's go back and celebrate, Di Xiaofeng suggested. Everyone nodded in agreement. The alchemy competition had ended, and there was still some time before the opening of the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm. During this period of time, they had to continue staying in Water Praying City and wait for the arrival of the other disciples of their clans. Sure, great, of course. Everyone agreed. At this moment, the Bailey family's team slowly walked past the Di family's team. Bailey Union's gaze fell on Di Xiaofeng. In fact, she didn't pay much attention to the alchemy competition. Instead, she focused more on Di Xiaofeng. Chapter 4757. The most important thing was that in the process just now, she found that there was always a delicate and lovely woman beside Di Xiaofeng. The two were obviously very close. She wanted to leave directly, but she couldn't help but look at Di Xiaofeng. Compared to a behemoth like the Di family, the Bailey family was just a small family. It was precisely because of this that she never thought that a character like Di Xiaofeng would like her. She always understood the huge gap between the two, but Di Xiaofeng's approach gradually made her greedy. Maybe it's really possible? However, looking at the radiant man at this moment, she deeply felt her insignificance. Di Xiaofeng also noticed Bailey Yunyan while talking, and his gaze suddenly changed a little. Big cousin, let's go. Lin Yi happily held Di Xiaofeng's hand. Today, we have to celebrate. We won't go home until we're drunk. This scene fell into Bailey Yunyan's heart, and a trace of bitterness appeared in her eyes. Yes, only such a woman is worthy to stand beside Di Xiaofeng, and I am still too insignificant. Thinking of this, she lowered her head, no longer looked at Di Xiaofeng, and left with the family team. After noticing Bailey Yunyan's action, Di Xiaofeng pulled away Lin Yi's hand and said, "Wait for me." As soon as his voice fell, Di Xiaofeng quickly walked in the direction of Bailey Yunyan. However, Lin Yi looked at her empty hand and a trace of loss quietly flashed in her dark eyes. Di Xiaofeng quickly walked to the Bailey family's team, and the children of the Bailey family were surprised after seeing Di Xiaofeng approaching. They couldn't get in touch with a character like Di Xiaofeng on normal days. Isn't this the young master of the Di family? Why is he approaching our team? It should be impossible for anyone in our family to know him. Could it be that someone has offended him? That would be troublesome. Just when the children of the Bailey family were guessing, Bailey Yunyan watched Di Xiaofeng's figure gradually approaching, but her heart was pounding. In the end, Di Xiaofeng stopped in front of Bailey Yunyan. Yunyan, something has happened. I have been staying in the family, so I couldn't tell you. Once I'm done with my family's business, I'll come and find you, okay? Di Xiaofeng's handsome face was filled with a warm smile. His gaze was shallow as he looked at Bailey Yunyan, but it was inexplicably moving. Bailey Yunyan stared blankly at Di Xiaofeng. She didn't expect Di Xiaofeng to come at this time. Moreover, he didn't seem to have changed at all. Most importantly, when she looked into his clear and resolute eyes, she suddenly felt that the distance between them had closed a little. The members of the Bailey family were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. From the looks of it, could it be that the young master of the Di family likes Yunyan? Isn't this too explosive? If that's really the case, then it's a big deal. Wow, Yunyan is so lucky. I'm so jealous of her. A blush appeared on Bailey Yunyan's face. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, she said, "Yes,